programs in all of college football as Bob Stoops' Oklahoma Sooners take on Dabo Swinney's Clemson Tigers. Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Patrick, Ed Cunningham. It's great to have you with us. Oklahoma started the season number 4 in the preseason polls, but underachieved. Finished outside the top 25 at 8-4. One thing that went better than expected, though, the discovery of a running back. 234 pounds of beast named Samaje Perine.
And the reason that Oklahoma had to find him was all of the injuries. Trevor Knight, the quarterback, went down, so they had to go almost exclusively to the running game. And boy, did they find a gem. As you look at the numbers that Perine put up on the season, this was the guy who wasn't even the starter at the beginning of the year. He burst onto the scene against West Virginia, went for over 200 yards. Of course, set the NCAA single-game record for 427 rush yards against Kansas. And the only guy he couldn't pass was Adrian Peterson for top freshman season in Oklahoma. But Knight does come back for this game. Scary moment against Baylor. 4 games left in the season, was down and momentarily paralyzed, but he's been cleared. Will be back today, and that is essential for this offense that really struggled throwing the ball when Knight was out.
Clemson finished the season at 9-3, including that big win in their rivalry game over South Carolina. But today they'll have to do it without their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, who was out with knee surgery. That means career backup Cole Stout gets the call.
And I think it's time to start realizing how good a coach Dabo Swinney is. He loses Chad Morris as offensive coordinator, so he has to make a change there. He's not going to have Deshaun Watson, one of the most exciting freshmen in the country, who looks like he's going to be a star when he comes back healthy. But I like the challenge that Swinney put on his quarterback Stout, who has not had a great senior year, had a couple of down games, been battling some injuries. He told the son of a former NFL quarterback, Cliff Stout, this is your career. You're playing for your Clemson career here tonight. All reports are he's been focused. He's had the backing of his teammates. So it'll be a nice night for this senior to see what he can do in his last ball.
Janine Edwards will work the sideline for us as usual. Let's check in with her right now. Janine.
Well, Mike, Dabo Swinney wasted no time promoting running backs coach Tony Elliott and wide receivers coach Jeff Scott to co-offensive coordinators when Chad Morris left. But it's Elliott who will be calling the plays. And in his 9 years as a coach, he has never called plays, nor has he ever coached from up in the box, which he's doing today. He told me he went round and round in his mind how to prepare for this game. He didn't want his first time up there to be now at kickoff. So Friday after practice, he and 2 assistants went up there, and they went through about 20 minutes of mock plays, calling a game, going down his call sheet. He said he had a few butterflies, but he's glad he did it because it's such a different perspective from up there. And guys, a couple of quick notes on the Oklahoma side. Starting right guard Adam Shedd is out today with a knee injury suffered this week in practice. And starting wide receiver Sterling Shepard, who has missed most of the last 5 games with a groin injury, will start today, but how long he's able to go remains to be seen. Mike?
Janine, thanks so much. Bob Stoops, 16 years, 16 straight bowl games at Oklahoma. He passed Barry Switzer for #1 in school history in victories in 2013.
You know, and this has been a really difficult season for Oklahoma. You mentioned the expectations, the offense without Trevor Knight, and with Shepard hurt since November 1st when he pulled that groin against Iowa State. They just haven't had it, but you start to hear the chatter of coaching changes, and when I hear it about this guy at this point in his career, it's just insanity. The fact that the number of games that he's won, but the class that this program carries itself on and off the field. If you're out there calling for this guy's job, get off the internet. Just stop. Just leave it alone.
It's just really, really silly.
It's mind-blowing.
We've got more from Janine Edwards. Tell us some more about Trevor Knight, Janine.
Well, guys, he was cleared to play for this game on December 13th after that injury on November 8th versus Baylor, where he had transient quadriplegia, which is a temporary paralysis due to swelling of the spinal cord or neck trauma, which came from the hit in that game. He didn't even practice for a month. He said he has seen or consulted with specialists from all over the country. They've all looked at his MRIs. They've been evaluating his strength and range of motion in practices leading up to this game. And 2 orthopedists, Dr. John McGinnis and Dr. Brock Schnabel, spine specialists, are part of Oklahoma's medical team for this game.
Janine, thank you so much. Clemson won the toss. They have deferred until the second half, so they have chosen to kick to one of the best in the country. Alex Ross is deep, averaging 32 yards a kick. Return. Bradley Pinion has it teed up for the Tigers at the 35-yard line. And Pinion crushes it out of the end zone. How sharp will Trevor Knight be in his return? In spite of the Sooners' offensive success, he has been inconsistent, completing under 60%. He's thrown too many picks this year for the number of passes he has tried and the production he's had.
And think about this young man. This will be the first full live play he's taken since he suffered momentary paralysis against Baylor. And Bob Stoops talked about, yeah, he looks great in practice. He's medically cleared. There is no risk to that neck. But think about this young man and the butterflies he must have. The last time he was on a field, he was being carted off. Quite a difference for him.
Butterflies flying in formation. Pirine straight ahead and drilled Ben Boulware, who starts the first half at middle linebacker for the suspended Stephon Anthony, and Grady Jarrett stopped him in his tracks, and that is tough to do.
Stephon Anthony was suspended for a targeting hit against South Carolina in the last game in the second half, so Anthony not able to go, and that is a big loss for Clemson against a team that likes to run it this much. So Boulware in there to start. We won't see Anthony until the second half.
Keith Ford comes in as a second running back. He goes in motion. Pirine again, hit up the line of scrimmage, breaks 1, 2, tackles and gets out to the 29-yard line. Offensively for Oklahoma, this is going to be their strength against Clemson's strength on defense. 10th in the FBS, almost 40 points a game. The Clemson Tigers, #1 in total defense in the FBS, 259.6 yards.
And of course, that defense coordinated by Brent Venables, who's been here now 3 years at Clemson after coming as the defensive coordinator from Oklahoma all those years, including the 2000 national championship.
Pirine goes in motion. Knight to throw for the first time and threw it off target, nearly intercepted. It was intended for Shepard. Looked like it ended up behind him.
That ball was forced and inaccurate. There are 4 defenders in the area for Clemson. His eyes took everyone there. Knight, who has had in a couple of ball games some really bad interceptions, 2 of them returned for touchdowns against TCU and Kansas State.
That would have been a third.
Yeah, that one was not a good throw.
Tavis Scott back to take the punt from Jed Barnett. And a punt of 36, no return. Cole Stout, one more chance to post that big game victory that has eluded him. He'll have to avoid the mistakes that have hurt him against better teams this year.
And he's a guy that admittedly the coaches said the Georgia Tech game when Deshaun Watson got hurt late in the year and Stout struggled, he hadn't quite prepared as much as he had been the starter, and so they feel a little more confident that he has been the starter for a while after Watson decided to go through with the ACL surgery after the South Carolina game.
Flanker screen, they get it out in a hurry to Scott, and Artavis Scott is off to the races. Scott, 65 yards, touchdown. Pretty good for a flanker screen.
Yeah, Oklahoma's got to be thinking about that Oklahoma State game. So many missed tackles in Bedlam. As I was watching that game, I couldn't believe how many tackles were missed. And this is just bad defense by the safety, Clinton Hayes, who overran it. And then Eric Stryker, arguably the best player on Oklahoma's defense, also took a bad angle from outside linebacker. And Scott, who's become a star as a true freshman, takes it to the house.
Sharon Peak helps clear the way with a good block. Ammon Lacob with the point after, and just like that, the Clemson Tigers explode with a Cole Stout to Scott touchdown pass. Downtown Orlando, Florida. And we're at the Russell Athletic Bowl where the Clemson Tigers have taken a very quick 7-0 lead here at the Russell Athletic Bowl. Basically a 65-yard hitch is what that turned out to be.
What a beautiful building. They have refurbished this place. I haven't been here since 2004. A terrific venue.
And this one hits near the back of the end zone.
This one is mind-boggling to me. You have it absolutely defended. You have 3 guys covering 2 receivers, and you have your outside linebacker striker and Quentin Hayes, the safety, in perfect position. The outside is sealed by Jordan Thomas. It's been a problem for Oklahoma all year where guys are in position in the secondary. This is the 118th ranked pass defense in the country, coordinated by Mike Stoops, brother of Bob. Mike coaches the secondary. And I was studying that Oklahoma State game. I went back and watched some other films. That is something that happens really consistently with the secondary, and they've got to get it cleaned up where guys don't break down. They get there and are not able to make the tackle when they're in position.
Knight under pressure, hit high and taken down by Vic Beasley, the consensus All-American pass rusher.
Tyrus Thompson, the left tackle, gets beat right to the inside. Beasley did a wonderful job. You know, first snap of the game as an offensive lineman, you expect a guy's going to come hit you in the face. So Beasley went with the quick move, spun to the inside. Beasley, rated as a potential first-rounder, sure looked like one there.
So for Clemson, number 3 scores on one side of the ball. Number 3 gets a sack on the other side of the ball. And the Clemson Tiger defense just flying. Grady Jarrett, the inside monster at 6 feet, 290, and almost immovable when he wants to be.
And Brent Venables, the former coordinator at Oklahoma, now ran an inside line stunt. He took Grady Jarrett, moved him. Remember the report from Janine, Adam Shedd, the left guard, the normal left guard, is out. And so you've got a change up in the offensive line, and they were not able to pick that up.
3rd and 22. Knight wants a screen, incomplete. Even if it's caught, they're going to lose yardage on that because Jaron Kearse was coming up on Makia Quick. It looks like they're playing with more than 11 guys.
Well, right now, there's always that question in a bowl game, which team really wants to be there and which team doesn't. Now, I'm not saying Oklahoma doesn't want to be here, but early returns are that Bob Stoops' team doesn't quite look like they're on the edge that Clemson is to play this ball game.
Barnett to kick. Scott is deep. Makes the first man miss. Or Humphreys, excuse me. Cross midfield, return of 2 after a punt of 44. Let's take a look at our keys to the game, brought to you by Franklin American Mortgage.
Clemson off to a great start. Spread out Oklahoma to run without Deshaun Watson, the running threat at quarterback. Spread him out. Well, if you run a screen, it goes for a touchdown. Now you're going to make Oklahoma leave the line of scrimmage, so you may be able to run it. For Oklahoma, they have to be efficient in the mid-range pass game. You know Samaje Perine and that run game is going to be what they focus on. But Knight has got to be able to hit 5, 6, 7-yard routes consistently to start to loosen up the linebackers of Clemson.
Stout, short set, throws again, and completes again. This time to Mike Williams, who makes his first catch and has a first down. Cole Stout's got to be thinking to himself, well, if I get 65 on a hitch, and this one is so easy, I wonder what else I can do. But he's got to be brimming with confidence.
I love this new offensive staff. Remember, Chad Morris left to be the head coach at SMU. They're giving things to Stout that are easy throws. That was a hitch. The other one was a screen. Here's another screen.
Scott fighting for extra yard. Hayes held him up until he got some help. And let's go to Janine.
Well, guys, I spoke to new quarterbacks coach Brandon Streeter right before this game, and he told me the 2 main things he wanted to see from Stout today: confidence and poise. And it's series like that first one that will do a world of good for Cole Stout's confidence. And also another thing to watch for, Ed, his footwork, transferring his weight and keeping his elbow raised on release.
Gallman will get his first carry. The young man out of Loganville, Georgia. His last 5 games, he's averaged over 100 yards.
And this is the first game for Brandon Streeter, former starting quarterback at Clemson, was a GA under Dabo Swinney 9 years ago, and now the sole quarterback coach for Cole Stout. Pretty good deal against Deshaun Watson back for next year. Pretty good job to get for Brandon Streeter.
Stout, nice protection. Takes off. Got what he could. Dives out of bounds. They'll mark him at the 32-yard line.
That's an excellent job by Stout. Just an excellent job. The entire left side of the offensive line was washing the Oklahoma defense to the right. He took exactly and knew where the stick was. And once again, just a Oklahoma defender. That time, Ahmad Thomas, the safety, just seemed a little late to get over there.
Gallman, nice hole off the right side. Runs through an arm tackle inside the 20 to about the 18. And Clemson is clicking on all cylinders.
What Tony Elliott, the running backs coach and new co-offensive coordinator, told us about Gallman. Remember, this guy was 3rd string coming out of going into camp. But he said from stance to start, from start to 10 yards, Gallman is the fastest guy we have. And you saw that there with Gallman, and the speed he had when he saw the hole.
Gallman again, great cut. Looking for a block. Down to the 14-yard line. They say if they ever had a nominee for the Middle School Hall of Fame, it would be this kid. He would just run straight for the sideline, then turn left and go 70 yards.
In high school, Gallman ran in a wing T offense, so it was get the ball, go find the hole, run full speed. So he's had to get used to this flow run game, but they said he's gotten so much better with his patience and vision. They lost Zach Brooks, who was a starter coming into the season. Adam Choice had come up to be the starter. He got hurt, so they get down to Gallman. He's really come on late.
They've overcome a lot. Gallman again. They need to reach the 8 for a first down, so it's going to be 3rd and long.
And this is where you really miss a guy like, frankly, Taj Boyd and Deshaun Watson. This is the time when the quarterback run game on 3rd and medium in the red zone can be used. So here, your little Tony Elliott, the new co-ops coordinator, calling the plays. You're a little bit, you don't have quite the full playbook here, so this looks like it'll be a throwdown for Clemson.
Well, they say they're going to run the same offense, but you're not going to get the same results.
Not here. This is different. This is just not having to run quarterbacks.
Blitz coming. Stout from behind.
Well, it was a missed pickup by the running back. Agbanya Okoronkwo was coming on a blitz, and Gallman just that was a freshman trying to make a blitz pickup, and he wasn't quite able to get Okoronkwo slowed down at all.
This will be a 39-yard try by Lakin, and he snap hooked it.
Defense was offsides though. Oklahoma jumped, and they're going to give. If you're an Oklahoma fan, you don't like to see things being re-kicked. Let's not forget that that is what happened when Bob Stoops decided to re-kick at the end of the game against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and it was one of their best on defense who was the guilty party, Zach Sanchez.
Offside. Defense number 15. 5-yard penalty. Remains 4th out.
He's the speed rusher, and he got a little head start.
And unbelievable that
it was
unbelievable that it was going to be a missed field goal, and now they give Clemson another chance. Again, going back to Bedlam, it was a running into the punter that Oklahoma decided to take and punt it to Tyreek Hill, who then took it to the house, sent the game to overtime, which Oklahoma State ended up winning.
So Lacob, instead of 39, will try from 34, and he is true on that one. Clemson's had the ball twice. They've scored twice, and they're up 10-0 here at the Russell Athletic Bowl.
So after Clemson gets another shot at a field goal and it's good, we decide to take it back to Bedlam. December 5th, running into the punter late in the game, a minute left. Instead of giving the ball on the 15. They decide to kick it to Tyreek Hill, who takes it the distance instead of giving the ball to Oklahoma State with no timeouts on the 15. Bob Stoops later saying it was a mistake to punt it, and then in overtime, unbelievably, Michael Honeycutt, the great kicker from Oklahoma, misses on the first possession. Oklahoma State kicks it to win. It was a decision that Bob was very honest about, said that I would want that back. His special teams coach, Jay Boulware, on the sideline was saying we shouldn't re-kick it. But, you know, you make those choices in a career, and you want them back. But, boy, if you had to do it over again, ball on the 15, freshman quarterback, no timeouts at our place, I think you'd want your defense out there.
Right now, Oklahoma has to be in a state of shock. They have been overwhelmed on both sides of the ball so far in this game.
Here's what I want to see on this drive is if Oklahoma's offensive line can even touch a guy in an orange jersey. Because right now, Brent Venables' plan to let his guys play free. We saw Vic Beasley have the free rush to the inside. They're doing stunts inside. You're not going to get Perine out of the backfield if you can't block him up front.
This will go out of the end zone, and they'll start at the 25. Capital One Bowl Mania continues tomorrow. 3 more games, starting with Notre Dame and number 23 LSU in the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl, followed by number 13 Georgia, number 21 Louisville in the Belk Bowl. Then Maryland and Stanford in the Foster Farms Bowl. It all starts tomorrow at 3 Eastern on ESPN.
Former head coach Jim Harbaugh of Stanford reporting, Adam Schefter from ESPN reporting that he has taken the job as the head coach at Michigan, somewhere north of $8 million per year.
How could he be available to take the job? Tell me.
Because he worked for the 49ers.
Tell me.
But obviously very big news for Michigan fans. They must be very happy.
Oklahoma will go the flanker screen route. And the completion from Trevor Knight to Makia Quick.
And a good call by Josh Heupel, the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. Nice, easy throw. Let's get something going.
Straight up the middle, Perine. And if he can get to that second level, nobody wants to get in front of him. 1 for positive yards out of 6. And that Clemson defense is playing straight downhill. Quick again. And the slot man hurdles across the 40-yard line. Here's Janine.
Well, guys, if you haven't noticed, Oklahoma's playing with a little bit more tempo right now, a little bit more sense of urgency. Offensive line coach Bill Bedenbaugh got into his linemen about not having a sense of urgency those first 2 series.
Knight slides in safely at midfield.
And this is one thing that Trevor Knight gives you. Cody Thomas, who came in for the 3 games that he was out with the neck injury, just didn't quite have the feel for the improvisation in the pass game. This is a wide receiver crew with Sterling Shepard, who has not been 100% since injuring his groin early in November. They don't quite have the speed and separation that they are used to, that they've had in years past. So to be able to pull down and run like Knight does, he just has a really nice feel for it. Even though Shepard is trying to go, the reports are that he just is not quite feeling 100% with that groin.
He can go straight ahead. He has very tough time making cuts. And that time, Neal went up and snatched it out of the air at the Clemson 39-yard line. Curse made the stop.
And there's a flag deep in the secondary. I'm not so sure offensive pass interference. It looked like Shepard was running down the field to clear out for Neal.
Pass interference. Offense number 3. 15-yard penalty from the previous drive. First down.
Yeah, when Shepard was running his route, and they're talking about whether it was defensive holding, and Shepard's trying to pull off what Bob Stoops, and Stoops was a longtime secondary coach, played defensive back at Iowa. What he's saying is they were holding our guy, and our guy was pushing off. But watch the top. Well,
he's right.
yeah. I mean, that looked like incidental running into Gary Peters there.
You know, you almost have to call that as a pick, because the other guy has the right to that space, and he ran right into him.
He ran right into him, and when you run into the guy, I think that's why they're going to call it.
Almost intercepted, and then it is intercepted.
Corinne Wick.
Clay, thank you so much. We want to thank everybody who's joined us from watching the Liberty Bowl. You have missed a spectacular beginning for the Clemson Tigers. A flanker screen that went 65 yards, a field goal on top of it. Great defensive play. They're up 10-0 and driving on the Sooners of Oklahoma. 3rd and long, blitz coming, and they got to stop. Taken down by the back of the collar from Eric Stryker, their sack specialist, who's number 4 in the Big 12, came in with 7.5 sacks, give him 8.5.
Well, Gallman, that was a missed pickup. That was a missed pickup in the backfield there. Gallman, the running back, was split out to the left, and Sam Cooper, really the only healthy tight end for Clemson, in there with Stanton Seckinger and Jordan Lego, the kneecap injury, out, and Cooper not able to pick up the blitzer.
Lacob, who was hit from 34, will try from 42. Blocked, and Oklahoma has the football. That can turn around momentum. And Dulue appeared to be the rusher who got a hand on it. Found a seam right in the middle for the block.
The 2014 Russell Athletic Bowl is brought to you by Russell Athletic, who reminds you that together we are. The Venture Card from Capital One. Earn unlimited double miles with no blackout dates. And Buick. Experience the new Buick during the Buick Holiday Sales Event.
After 10 months of major reconstruction, the Orlando Citrus Bowl Stadium reopened in November. More than $200 million in renovations has increased seating capacity to more than 65,000 here in this beautiful city.
They did all of that work in 10 months.
Not bad, huh?
Yeah, give me that contractor's number.
Give me his bank account balance. Let's see if this can swing momentum a little bit for Oklahoma. Samaje Perine. Just the way this game started, and it started quickly for Clemson.
Yeah, Artavis Scott, their first offensive plays, goes 65, and then Corinne Wiggins, who snuffed out a screen earlier, does a great job making a pick. But Clemson gets the ball, and Ndulue gets through. A wonderful job by Charles Tapper, who pushed his man back and let Ndulue come through the middle. But you mentioned that might be a bit of a turn of momentum, because it felt like Clemson was going to run Oklahoma out of his building.
Absolutely. And for Oklahoma, it had better be a turn of momentum, because they're getting blown off this field. Very few positives so far. Tipped and intercepted. Picked up by Boulware. Boulware, 46 yards, touchdown. Through the hands of Shepard into the waiting arms of Ben Boulware, who gets the start in the first half because Stephon Anthony was suspended.
Not a terrific throw. Could have taken something off of it. Was a little ahead of Shepard. But what a nice job by Boulware. Good cutback there. Guy who's just a sophomore, was going to be a backup. Anthony, as you mentioned, was suspended for targeting against South Carolina. But you know what Brent Venables was just telling him right there? Go catch your breath, because you're about to go back out on defense. That's the good news, bad news of scoring on defense is, hey, you still got to go try to tackle Perine a bunch of times. So go catch your breath.
Well, if momentum had shifted to Oklahoma on the block, it's all gone.
Sure is.
Coming up after our game, Capital One Bowl Mania continues. Arkansas, Texas in the Advocare V100 Texas Bowl up next on ESPN. Boy, oh boy, what a stunner this is. Lacob blasts another one out of the end zone.
You know, it's tough to watch Trevor Knight struggle a bit this year because remember last year, Alabama was near 3-touchdown favorite in the Super Bowl. 32 for 44, 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, and just 1 interception, and a shocker of a win. And I think that's propelled Oklahoma to the expectations this year that they were going to be fighting for a playoff spot.
I know Alabama was great, but they weren't favored in the Super Bowl.
It's the Sugar Bowl. That would be news. Yeah, it was the Sugar Bowl.
This year they might be favored in the Super Bowl. Well, if you're Oklahoma, what do you do now?
You have to stay with your plan. I mean, you can't think of this game. And remember, this is a team in Oklahoma that's averaged nearly 40 points a game. So they can score in bunches. So the game's not over. You're down 17. Stoops has that. We just have to stay focused on what you're doing. But the 2 INTs in a row, those are tough ones.
And they have 4 yards and 4 drives.
Yeah.
Net. Brett Venables says he values experience more than talent. He has both on this unit. Number 1 in the country in total defense. They are equally as good against the run as they are against the pass. Shepard makes his first catch on his knees at the 37, and here's Janine.
Well, guys, I can tell you what the Oklahoma coaches have been doing. They've been trying to just calm their players down, telling them, don't let what Clemson's doing rattle you guys. Just do what we do, relax, settle down. If you make a mistake, let it go. Don't dwell on it. Sterling Shepard's made a couple of mistakes. Jay Norvell was in his ear telling him just settle down and play smarter. So right now, Bob Stoops and his staff are trying to get his guys to play with a little more composure and to play a little smarter.
And certainly, Janine, if you can get some movement up front, you can put a saddle on Samaje Perine and have a very good day from this point on.
And you got to think that the Clemson defensive line is going to start getting a little more tired. They've rotated some fresh guys in for this drive, but we didn't get too far off the plan here.
Read option, Perine stuffed. Now they're taking a 243-pound running back who set the national FBS rushing record this year and has been averaging almost 7 yards a carry, and they're stuffing him at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, this is right now it's the Clemson defensive line that is the MVP of this game.
7 carries, 12 yards for Perine. Knight staying alive, got a great block there. And throws it out of bounds.
He got no help from his wide receivers. KJ Young, a freshman wide receiver, just kind of gave up. He was the receiver to the side that Knight was running. Shepard got tied up. And Knight very lucky as he spun back to his left. That was a blind spin as Kurtz came up right there. That spin back. He's very lucky that Shaq Lawson hadn't gotten a little deeper. That would have been a monstrous loss of yardage.
Humphreys waits for the punt inside the 30. Rugby style kick drilled and a beauty. Will it stop? No. Just got across the end line. 63-yard kick.
43 net is still a pretty good net. As that ball goes into the end zone, will come out to the 20. You know, but going back to what Janine reported about what Bob Stoops and his staff were saying to his team, they've had some issues in their secondary. I saw it a bunch against Oklahoma State. We've already seen it in this game. One of the things that can start to happen, especially with young guys that are still trying to figure out what you're doing, start to overthink, especially with as much offense as Clemson runs. So trying to get them to settle in.
Gallman as they crowd the line of scrimmage this time and stuff him.
Well, you've got a nose guard at Oklahoma in Jordan Phillips, who is built like an offensive tackle at 6'6", 334, and he controlled the middle there.
How good must this feel for Cole Stout?
And how good does it feel to have a guy like Sharon Peak coming back to close to full speed? Peak as fast as they have on this team. A wonderful throw by Stout. Right there on the boundary. Fitted into a pretty tight window.
Gallman. Flag is down at the end of the play.
Wondering if they got a face mask.
Personal foul, face mask. Number 91 of the defense, 15-yard penalty, first down.
Charles Tapper, the junior defensive end.
I think they missed the number. It looked to me like it was Charles Walker, 97, not 91, but that's a honest mistake. But Walker, as he worked down the line, reached out and got a hold of the face mask.
Stout, short set, quick throw to Mike Williams. Very young, very good wide receiver core. Williams is a sophomore. Martavis got a freshman on the other side.
Interesting, that was not a face mask. That was, he had him inside the collar, so I think you probably could have called horse collar tackle there. But he had him inside on the horse collar. The horse collar typically is where you have to call it from behind. So even though that looked like a face mask, it was not a penalty actually by Walker. So a good break for Clemson.
And breaks are something Oklahoma hasn't had so far, except for the one block kick.
And the official who threw the flag was behind the body of Walker, so it looked to him as the body came down.
He sees the head go down, right?
Yeah. And what a big, big, big first quarter for Clemson.
The Tigers started it with a flanker screen that went 65 yards for a touchdown. Nothing else has worked for the Sooners either.
Chances, but only one champion. The College Football Playoff on ESPN. Hallelujah.
Really getting excited about this. This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun, and you're going to see two of the best quarterbacks, Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston, the last two Heisman winners in this Oregon and Florida State matchup.
Mariota played spectacularly well in the Pac-12 championship game, and landslide win for the Heisman. Well deserved.
Stout has not missed yet. Puts this one up for the end zone. His first incompletion knocked away by Jordan Thomas, intended for Williams.
I don't mind the throw though. Mike Williams at 6'4", going up against the guy at 6'1". Give your guy a shot. If you underthrow the ball too much, you throw an interception. I don't mind. The ball was there. You try to make a play. Good call. And first time for Tony Elliott there in the middle. Calling the plays. Take it over for Chad Morris, now at SMU as the head coach.
Fly sweep. Scott knocked down as he got to the 32. Pickup of a couple.
This is a big down for Oklahoma. You're already down 17. You've got a third down right on the edge of field goal range. So even if Lakip comes out, he's on the edge of where he's comfortable. Big down. I don't know that you need to bring pressure, but the front's got to get some movement here in Cole Stout's face. Haven't been able to get a lot of pressure with just the front four this year for Oklahoma.
Showing 5 on the line of scrimmage. Back out of it. Stout for Humphreys, incomplete. With him almost stride for stride with Stephen Parker. You're in that no man's land territory right now.
Yeah, there was some discussion just going on the sideline what to do. They are sending Lakip out to kick this. Remember, there was a block over the left side of the offensive line, and they've made a change for Clemson. That's Kalon Davis, who has moved in to play that left guard position, which was where the block came from the last time.
This will be from 49. The 42-yarder was blocked. The 34-yarder was made. And this is knocked through by Ammon Lacob. And Clemson increases its total to 20-0 here in the first half against Oklahoma in the Russell Athletic. From the Special Operations Command, this is pregame activity of the Para Commandos. And the first guy down, perfect timing with the end of the national anthem. It was spectacular.
When they were singing Home of the Brave and this guy started coming into the building, it erupted. It was really a neat moment. We're here tonight for the Russell Athletic. We'll be here for the Citrus at the end of the week. This is a really well-run operation.
Yes, sure.
Top to bottom. The game, the hospitality, the teams. This has been a wonderful experience.
Speaking of well-run, Clemson, 4 drives, touchdown, 2 field goals, and a missed field goal. They also scored on defense. 5 drives for Oklahoma. They have not crossed midfield. Let's go to Janine.
Well, guys, Dan Rodriguez is playing his last game today as a Clemson Tiger. And to quote Dabo Swinney, he said, "I couldn't do justice describing the impact he's had on our program." Swinney took a chance on an Army veteran and let him walk onto the team. And recently, Rodriguez shared with me a very personal note he received when he joined the team back then. It's from former President Bill Clinton. Rodriguez said the letter means even more to him now. He realizes he has a message he can share with others who may need clarity or a purpose in their lives.
Janine is a very special young man who served with a lot of other very special people, who was awarded a Purple Heart and a Silver Star for his service in Afghanistan.
We have seen veterans and active military so far this year playing college football.
Yes.
It's really neat to see these young men and getting the recognition that they deserve.
I'd like to have that in your in your archives.
Yeah, I think you want to put that one away.
Of course, we've got some guys here enjoying this game as well. Ripkowski, the fullback, takes a bullet off the hands. Ripkowski is a very interesting story. He was a high school lineman who came to Oklahoma, walked on. He's only carried the ball 6 times in his entire life, and yet he has an NFL future because he is just a monster blocking fullback.
Really good, excellent pad level. He hits people with power. He's going to get a nice look at the next level.
Knight changing the play. Pirine shifts. Screen to Neal. That's what a veteran defensive unit can do. Much to the delight of Brent Venables, they were able to change their look, bait them perhaps into going with a screen and then stuffing it.
This really does look like the varsity versus the JV right now. I mean, the guys in orange look like they're the ones on scholarship, and the guys in white look like they're on the scout team at the moment.
Barnett with a boomer over the head of Humphreys, made the catch over his shoulder. Looking for a block. And the senior wide receiver back across the 20, return of 5 after a punt of 57 yards and a beauty. He was the co-defensive coordinator with Mike Stoops. And when Mike left to go to Arizona, he became the defensive coordinator. Mike was coming back, so they would be co-coordinators again. That's when he had the opportunity, he felt, to go elsewhere to a program like Clemson, run his own shop again. And it has, I mean, he took over a defense that couldn't get out of its own way, and they have gone from just horrid to perhaps the best in the country.
And when we were talking to Brent Venables, we covered Clemson several times in the first year that Venables had taken over as a defensive coordinator in 2012. And it looked to us like Venables was worried about well, should I have really taken this job? He was the new guy in town. You had Chad Morris, Taj Boyd, Sam Watkins. You had all these great offensive power, and they were struggling on defense. And he looked like maybe he shouldn't have taken the job.
And all the talent was on the other side of the ball.
And remember, he took over a defense that had just given up 70 points to West Virginia. He comes in, he's the new guy, he gets a huge contract. And when we met with him, he just looked like he was hating life. And then this year, we went and visited with him last year. He's settled in, really enjoys Clemson, really enjoys the support of the program, and likes being an assistant coach and likes how the program is run from the top.
Well, he also looked like life wasn't real fond of him either.
Yeah, he was struggling that first year, but he really has turned things around quite a bit. He's one of the most personable guys you'll ever talk to. Very intense, but stays positive. And he said, Dabo Swinney gave me an opportunity, and I was at a fork in the road in my life. I was at a place I loved and didn't necessarily want to leave. And boy, he's really found a nice home for him here and his family. They really have enjoyed Clemson, South Carolina.
Stout got the ball out of his hands in a hurry to Williams, and Williams up to the 37. And we check in with Adnan Burke.
Thanks very much, Mike. SportsCenter right now brought to you by Great Clips, the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. This is Kyle Allen to Malcolm Kennedy as Texas A&M was triumphant over West Virginia 45-37. Allen 4 touchdowns, and he ran for another one. Pretty good day. Mike, back to you.
Adnan, thanks very much. Stout. Scott dragging a tackler within the 47-yard line. That'll be another first down.
Scott, just a sensational true freshman, and Dabo Swinney and his staff are master recruiters. They are stacking talent. This is a guy who's been exceptional off the field as well. 3.6 GPA in the fall semester. He's doing really well off the field as well.
Boy, they are wearing him out with the flanker screens, and Scott again takes it inside the Oklahoma 45 to the 44. What a talent this kid is.
And look how fast now Clemson trying to get going. They're starting to wear out this defense. They're making them run sideline to sideline. Good plan by this new offensive staff.
Keeping the pressure on. And until you prove you can tackle like that and stop these quick flanker screens, bubble screens, whatever you want to call them, they're going to keep throwing them at you.
And it has been a struggle. Zach Sanchez, one of the few bright spots for Mike Stoops, who not only the defensive coordinator, but also coaches the secondary. But the struggles have been in the secondary. Poor tackling. Just some tough times. 3rd and 3. This is an opportunity maybe to see if you can take a shot, because I think this is where you go for it on 4th down.
Humphreys in motion. 4 wide receivers set. Stout on a roll. Humphreys makes the catch. He's got the first down. This is a nice move with this tempo to keep the pressure on Oklahoma.
Move the pocket here. Stout throws accurately on the run. This is, one of the things that we were told about Chad Morris by Dabo Swinney was his strongest attribute as an offensive coordinator was how much he delegated. He actually allowed the staff to do a lot of work, and looks like they're not missing a beat.
Gallman. You don't think Chad Morris will have any success succeeding at SMU, do you?
We were there earlier this year, and they were scrambling when June Jones very surprisingly left. But that is a place built for success. You're in the middle of a state that Chad Morris obviously knows well. It's where he's from. It's where he coached in high school. Yeah, they're going to be at the top of their conference, I think, very quickly.
Stout. If he had taken off maybe a step quicker, would have had a shot. Charles Walker wrapped him up, though, along with Jordan Wade.
To me, this is a down and distance. It's like getting a bad card in blackjack. If you're Oklahoma right now, if they run a screen and pick up 6 or 7 yards, they're in maybe go for it territory and a field goal. But yet, you've got to play some deep defense here. You can see the safety now backing out. They're showing pressure. I'm not sure you want to pressure here, though.
To continue your analogy, Oklahoma's had a fistful of 22s so far.
And that's not good, right?
No, it's not. Clemson succeeding with everything it does.
you know,
you try a field goal here, or do you go for it?
I have a feeling you go for it here. And only because you're right on the edge of the range. You've already had one block. You're in such control of this game. I think you go for it here and say, you know,
what's
if we don't make it. Yeah, because if you get a kick block and it gets returned, that really changes the complexion. I like this. Maybe a quick throw over to the right, some type of slant potentially. I think this is a good decision by Sweeney.
Oklahoma may be offsides as well. This one's tipped, picked off, intercepted by the offensive lineman Charles Tapper, and Tapper is going to go for a touchdown, but hold the phone. It certainly appeared that Oklahoma was offside. Wouldn't that figure?
Unbelievable. We already showed what happened at the end of Bedlam, where Oklahoma had a running into the punter that they accepted instead of putting Oklahoma State on their own 15 with under a minute left. And now a total game changer is going to come back.
Offside. Defense. That 5-yard penalty will result in a first down.
Okoronkwo is the guilty party up top, trying to get a good start. Boy, oh boy.
Yep.
Unbelievable. And now Tapper. Cole Stout not able to sweep the legs. Tapper, a very good athlete, high school basketball player until he played football late in his high school career. But just an unbelievable mental mistake, and it just piles up for Oklahoma during this season.
Just to make it worse, it's a first down. Four-man rush. Stout steps into it. Tipped and incomplete. That was intended for Hopper on the post. Good defense by Jordan Thomas, and Ahmad Thomas also had a shot at it.
Throw was just a little bit late. Great closing speed that time by Thomas, who's playing a bunch since Julian Wilson has been injured. Wilson out completely in this game with a shoulder injury. But Thomas, true freshman, did a really nice job of closing on that one.
Stout on the keeper. Get about 4.
Unbelievable how poorly this game has gone for Oklahoma. You think you'd be sitting here 20-7, and Mike Stoops would be saying, okay, now we got a little momentum, our defense can come out, and instead, sorry guys, right back out, keep playing.
3rd and 7 here. They're already well within field goal range if it comes to that. Underneath, plenty of first down. Williams breaks a tackle. Touchdown. Jordan Thomas couldn't corral him. Had him at the sideline for a short gain. Missed him, and it cost him 20 yards and 6 points. Wow.
And give credit to Mike Williams, a big guy who had terrific bounce. Looked to me like they may review this. There's an Oklahoma player down, but it did look like from the other angle the ball was in. If not, it's going to be on the 6-inch line. But this has been the struggle for Oklahoma's secondary.
The ball was clearly outside or over the top. Is that what we're saying?
It looked to me like it was. And that's Ndulu, who's limping off the field, one of their key defensive tackles. Looks like he's walking pretty well. So for
Bill Lamonier, our rules expert, is going to look at this, as the officials on the field are also taking a look at it.
Zone looked like he put it over the top of the pylon.
So if the ball, Bill, you're just coming in now, a little technical. So if the ball goes over or inside the pylon, it's a touchdown.
Or touches the pylon.
It is confirmed. Touchdown.
Good call by the officials on the field. Good speedy replay confirmation.
And poor tackling by Oklahoma if you're keeping score at home.
That caps an 80-yard drive that took more than 5 minutes off the clock.
And Mike Williams, a guy who had a tough start to the year, had some drops in that Georgia game, has just continued to work. And I know we harp on the negative here, but just a terrific job of him to fight through the tackle, but also that drill of putting your hand on the ground, keeping yourself on balance.
And Mike Stoops, I think, has seen enough of this.
The 2014 Russell Athletic Bowl is brought to you by Russell Athletic, who reminds you that together we are.
Sooner fans gathered at Orlando Bowl Week fan headquarters yesterday, had a big pep rally with the team's cheerleaders and band. Not a whole lot to cheer about so far in this one. They are just getting it handed to them, 27-0.
And if you're just joining us, there was an interception return for a touchdown by Oklahoma that was called back for offside. So instead of 20-7, it flips to 27. You go from a 2-score game to a 4-score game. Just
Oklahoma's going to have a chance to run this one back, and they managed to botch the kickoff return. I got it, you take it, right in between them, and they'll start this series from the 5.
If I'm Bob Stoops, I'd ask for a running clock in the second half. This is looking like a team that just flat out is not focused. Deron Neal in there, not sure who's going to take the ball.
Well, if you're Alex Ross, you're number 3 in the country in kick returns.
Go take it.
Go get it.
This has just got to be mind-boggling for Bob Stoops and his staff to have his team come out and not just seem unfocused, frankly.
Now, Clemson is arguably the best defensive team in the country, but you've got Samaje Perine, who is arguably the best running back in the country, and you've got 34 yards. Perine in the eye, gets the short toss. And boy, they haven't been afraid to go after Perine in this game. And they're just firing at the big guy.
Well, here's what the penalties have done to Oklahoma. Remember, they had a blocked field goal called back for being offside. So then Clemson re-kicked and made it. They had an INT return for a touchdown that was called back that continued to drive that led to a touchdown. So just an awful set of circumstances in the first half.
Perine has gained only 13 yards on 8 carries. Just can't get past the line of scrimmage very often. He gets to carry this time, and there he goes. Across the 20. This is 243 pounds of running back who has quick feet and speed. It's a gain of 24.
Perine, when you study him, he's a short, squatty guy, obviously, but the one thing he does have in the open field, he has much better speed than you would expect for a 243-pounder that stands about 5'10". He really can stretch it out. In studying that Kansas game where he went for 427, the single game record in the NCAA, he had a couple of runs where he was running away from people in the secondary. Kind of surprising.
Perine straight up the middle this time, up to the 35. Against Kansas, he broke Melvin Gordon's FBS single-game rushing record of 408 yards, a record that had been set only the week before. Perine, 34 carries, 427 yards along with 5 touchdowns. And apparently playing the Kansas defense is good for what ails you.
Watching that film and taking nothing away from Perine. Obviously a terrific game, but I think Kansas's safety has yet to make a tackle. Continually going to the wrong hole.
Perine. Well, you look at what he does. If I'm playing safety, I'm going to the wrong hole every time. I'm going to the hole he's not in.
Yeah, well, that's what it looked like. It looked like the safety decided to go to the wrong hole. But they really started to lean on this young man late in the season when Trevor Knight was out with the neck injury. Cody Thomas came in, it became almost 2-1 run to pass in their play calls.
Keith Ford is in. He started the season as the #1 running back. He's number 21, got hurt. P. Ryan had a chance. And here is movement up front. And that's by Deontay Savage, who moved from right guard to left guard.
Full start. Offense. Number 77. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
Because of the injury to Adam Shedd. Let's go to Janine.
Well, guys, you were talking about how inexplicably Oklahoma is playing this game so far. And Clemson defensive tackle Deshaun Williams looked at his teammates a few moments ago and said, I don't think they want it. It doesn't look like they want it. And this defense of Clemson is tired and hot and thirsty, but it seems they're playing like they want it more than the Sooners right now.
Boy, isn't that the truth? Knight back on 3rd down, over the middle and incomplete.
And that's a throw that Trevor Knight needs to make. They have exactly what they wanted. The middle linebacker had completely bailed out Ben Boulware. They put right behind it. They put Dimitri Flowers, the fullback, and that's talking to Boulware there. He dropped too deep. He left the middle of the field wide open, and Knight just completely missed the throw.
Humphreys comes up trying to field the ball and can't. Claps his hands in disgust that he wasn't able to save his team 10 yards there. Downtown Orlando here at the Russell Athletic Bowl, and it's been all Clemson. Lake Eola Park in Orlando, Florida. And we're at the Russell Athletic Bowl in the beautiful new renovated stadium here. And Clemson helping the bowl committee celebrate. Oklahoma not participating so far.
Yeah, I would say I think the bowl committee would like both teams to participate. I know I would.
Gallman with the clock running, and if you're Clemson, you can be very patient.
Yeah, I was going to say,
right now.
I'd be giving it to 9 a lot. You think of the script being flipped last year when Oklahoma went to play in the Sugar Bowl. It was Alabama who maybe didn't look like they want to be here. Now you flip it to this year, and it's just the exact opposite. And Clemson looking for their 10th win. That's a big deal. Double-digit wins. It's a big deal. And they look like the ones who have their focus on the brass ring in this one.
That would be the 4th time in Dabo Swinney's relatively brief career that his club has won 10 games. That's a significant accomplishment.
He's one of those guys who's really built a program. Remember, he came in as an interim when Tommy Bowden was fired mid-season, so everyone wondered, is he going to get the job? He was a young guy, very emotional guy, speaks his mind, very outspoken guy. And I think it's taken a while for people to say, there's a lot of thought and effort that this guy has put into building this program. And I think it's one of the reasons Chad Morris is going to be successful at SMU is I think he learned a lot while he was here about personnel and how to build a program that can sustain, because they clearly have done that at Clemson.
The blitz got to Cole Stout again, and that's one of the few things that Oklahoma has done well, is put some pressure on Stout from time to time. Stryker was in with another sack, and Romar, who had been hurt, also got a piece of that one.
Well, inside defensive line stunt, and Wayne Gallman, the running back, maybe should have stayed in and helped out there, but Oklahoma using a timeout, a well-used timeout, to save some time for their offense.
That's the second time you have mentioned his lack of ability to pick up a blitz, and that's what happens when you have a freshman trying to do those things. New Year's 6 kicks off on New Year's Eve. Number 9 Ole Miss, number 6 TCU in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, followed by number 20 Boise State, number 10 Arizona in the Vizio Fiesta Bowl. Then number 7 Mississippi State, number 12 Georgia Tech in the Capital One Orange Bowl. It all starts at 12:30 Eastern on ESPN.
One of my favorite players we saw all year was Justin Thomas, the quarterback at Georgia Tech. Just
He's a player.
5'8" fire plug who can throw it, who can run it. He's cool under pressure. I really like Georgia Tech against Mississippi State in that game.
There's a shank that goes out of bounds near midfield, and we'll check in with John Saunders. John.
Mike, thanks a lot. Pretty soon we're going to head out here to New Orleans where we get ready for the All-State Sugar Bowl. The Ohio State Buckeyes, no one giving them any chance to win this game. We'll find out if maybe our crew does as well. At the Rose Bowl, the other semifinal, great quarterbacks there. One with a Heisman last year in a championship, the other with a Heisman this year, but looking for a championship. Plus a wild game in the Liberty Bowl. Mike, back to you.
John, you give Urban Meyer a chance to get ready for a ball game. He's got a shot against anybody.
I don't know. I like Alabama a lot in that one. The Florida State-Oregon game, that's going to be the one to watch, I think.
Best field position so far for Oklahoma. Pirine running hard to the 43, a couple yards shy of the first down. Did Oklahoma make anything happen in the last 2.5 minutes? Robert Smith made the stop.
And the struggles and interceptions that they've had in the throw game tell you exactly what Josh Heupel is thinking here. If we can pop one, use our timeouts, the clock stops more often in the college game than the pro game. I think he feels like risking some throws with Knight right now is not the way to get it done.
And anything on the board would obviously be huge. Samaje again tripped up by an ankle tackle. A saving stop by Tony Stewart, but Pirine has another first down.
Stewart does an excellent job. You know, that timing, and the other thing Stewart did was when he went up, if he would have grabbed the back of the pads and pulled down, that would have been a penalty. I'm not sure that it was that heads up, but luckily for Stewart, he didn't grab and pull. Otherwise, that would have been a penalty.
Knight fakes the handoff. Down the sideline and too far out of bounds for K.J. Young. You've got to give your receiver a chance, and that time he did not.
And they're looking for consistency out of Knight, and that's one of the throws that you need to make consistently. Young was covered, so it would have been a tight fit either way, but there's no receiver on the planet who can go up and catch that ball.
On the season, Knight completed less than 60% of his passes. And in the modern college game, you need to do better than that. Pirine, fumble! Clemson football. Pirine had lost exactly one fumble all year long until now.
This defensive line, this time it was Grady Jarrett who came through completely unblocked. Jarrett just having a monster senior year, playing as well as any inside defensive lineman. Completely blows up the block, and he almost took the handoff. Pirine did an excellent job knocking it out of his hands, but the orange jerseys pursuing end up getting the ball. But as you mentioned, a very rare fumble lost for Pirine, and things go from bad to worse for Oklahoma.
They were already worse.
You know what, though, you go down and score, you're down 3 scores. You can come out in the second half and think we got a shot. And now it just, if I'm Oklahoma, I'm thinking about packing up in the bus and let's just go ahead and take it home. I mean, this has just been a landslide. And shocking. You know, coming into this game, there was no way in the world. I do that show every year, that Bowl Mania show, where we go through every bowl. One of the biggest things we talk about is, what bowl is there one team that wants to be there and one team that doesn't? This one didn't really touch the radar, but holy cow, does it look that way right now.
Stout gets it out to Scott. Scott will get out of bounds. Some contact after Scott was over there with Jordan Thomas. And the last thing this game needs is to get chippy.
Yeah, and that was Jordan Evans who came over and looked like he may have gotten a late hit.
Gallman again upended.
Good timeout by Oklahoma.
It'll bring up a 4th and 1. We'll see what they do when we come back. The NFL playoffs starting on ESPN. Cam Newton and the NFC South champion Panthers have won 4 in a row. Now they go up against Larry Fitzgerald and the Cardinals. It's win or go home the NFL playoffs wild card round. Cardinals and Panthers, Saturday, 4:30 Eastern on ESPN.
I'll clean up what I said. That timeout was actually taken by Clemson. I said it was a good timeout by Oklahoma. The ball was out of bounds, so really neither team should have called timeout. And Dabo Swinney looked a little confused on his sideline as an assistant called timeout as to why they would have done that.
Pinion knocks it inside the 10, and the clock will stop with 43 seconds to go in the half.
But even when I mistakenly said it was a good timeout for Oklahoma because I'd forgotten the runner had gone out of bounds, I'm still not sure Oklahoma would do anything right now other than try to get out of the half. The way that they have been throwing the ball.
Well, you wouldn't think.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you pop one out to the 50, you give it a shot, but I'm just not so sure you're confident at all to call any throw game here, especially down at the 9-yard line.
Yeah, do you really want to risk trying to turn it over and give up another cheap 7?
No, I don't think you do. But if they try and they get it incomplete and it stops and I'm Clemson, I might think about my timeouts too and make these guys punt it from deep in their end zone if I have an opportunity to do that.
Pirine isn't in there. Ford is the running back. You got 2 fullbacks. Ford will get the toss. He's down at the 15. That's one of those deals. If he breaks it for 20 yards, and you can unleash a little bit of offense. If he doesn't, you don't worry about it. And all Oklahoma's going to be able to do is just shake its collective head and go to the locker room wondering what happened.
Well, the motivation for Clemson to get 4 years in a row with double-digit wins, obviously trumping Oklahoma coming in after a tough game against their in-state rival, Oklahoma State, looking like they wanted the season to end after that bowl game.
Check in with Janine.
Dabo, there are a lot of football fans out there who are checking scores and they see 27-0 and they might think it's a typo. For somebody who's been under a rock and hasn't watched the first half of this game, how would you describe what's been going on here?
Well, we were ready, and from the opening kick, we came ready, and we played a very clean game outside of a couple of protection issues, which was us, just not in a couple of mental errors, but defensively we're playing great. We're just kind of being who we are. We've been a great defense all year. They set the tempo on the opening possession. We've created 3 turnovers. We've scored on defense, and then offensively, man, Cole Stout's playing great. We're taking what's there. We got to get a little more going in the running game, but a good first half, but we got a long way to go. Listen, this is a national championship caliber football team we're playing in Oklahoma, and we're going to have to play, equally as good in the second half.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
And with everything else he said, they look good in orange. At the half, our score, Clemson 27, Oklahoma nothing. When we come back, John Saunders, Joey Galloway, and Lou Holtz bring you up to date with everything after these messages. Welcome back to the 2014 Russell Athletic Bowl from Orlando, Florida. In a game that we thought was going to be nip and tuck, highly competitive. And the best thing we can say about it the first half, it wasn't.
Well, maybe the second half will be. The shocking part for me, and it's something that you hear coaches talk about all the time, and Bob Stoops is feeling this, you never know when your team's really going to be ready. They may have had great practices, had all the intensity, but when it came out, the very first play for Clemson offensively, you knew something was not right. Now, the secondary for Oklahoma has not been great all year. They've had a lot of missed tackles. This was the first play of the game. They had 3 defenders on that side. They missed the tackle. Trevor Knight then misses Shepard slightly, probably could have gotten more on it, but Jay Boulware, who was starting in front of Stephon Anthony, who was suspended for targeting against South Carolina, takes it for a touchdown. And then at 20-0, Oklahoma gets a pick 6 that would have made it 20-7. Instead, they were offsides on the play. That same drive, Mike Williams makes them pay with, guess what, another missed tackle. And Mike Stoops, the defensive coordinator, has got to be thinking about a career change at this point in this ball game. Obviously joking there, but just a totally different ball game on this sideline for Stout and Dabo Swinney.
For Oklahoma, the misery index in this game is just off the charts. And Clemson will get the ball to start the second half. Hodson, one of the best kickoff men in the country. High and deep, taken 2 yards in the end zone by T.J. Green. And Clemson will bring it out to the 25-yard line. Here's Janine.
Well, Mike and Ed, there is only one word that can be used to describe the Oklahoma Sooners right now, and that is frustrated. You can see it on the faces of the coaches, the players, the support staff. Bob Stoops told me the most surprising thing of the way that half unfolded was the turnovers. He said just major swings in momentum with the turnovers. He said, I told my guys they've got to stay positive and keep competing because sooner or later one of these breaks is going to go our way. And guys, a quick update. I did see someone with x-rays going into the locker room, and earlier in the game they were looking at the left hand of Blake Bell, so keep an eye on him.
There goes Gallman. Thomas makes a saving tackle after a gain of 9.
Blake Bell, of course, was a quarterback for Oklahoma. Transitioned to tight end for this year as Trevor Knight had played so well in that Sugar Bowl. He hurt his knee late in the season, was just getting back. A guy who may have a shot at the next level at tight end, so bummer for him if he's not able to play in the second half.
Gallman again. He does not look like a powerful guy, but boy, he runs hard.
He does run hard. He runs a little high. He's all of 6'1". He's kind of a tall, lanky guy. It's one thing that Tony Elliott, the new co-offensive coordinator and play caller, and also running back coach, said they're going to work on with him. Just get those pads down, but he does run with a purpose, doesn't he?
If you're Cole Stout, how much fun are you having right now? He's now 17 out of 21, about 190 yards and a couple of touchdowns.
And what a senior year. 5-2 in the starts that he's had. He started the season obviously against Georgia, then Deshaun Watson came in relief against Florida State, and from there forward it was going to be Deshaun Watson's team, but then Watson breaks his hand against Louisville.
Right.
Hurts his knee against Georgia Tech, plays against South Carolina, but then hurts his knee again. They decide to go in for surgery. So here's a guy handed the keys for his last game, and he's playing great.
And really his last chance to do something in a meaningful game, and he throws a strike to Sharon Peak down the middle of the field, deep into Oklahoma territory, and Quentin Hayes was right in his grill.
Hayes comes late. Good transfers of his weight to get a good, accurate throw there. Janine Edwards was talking about what Brandon Streeter, the new quarterback coach, who just was hired to take over when Chad Morris left, talking about that weight transfer, how important that is. That was excellent weight transfer with the blitz coming.
Four-man rush. This ball batted down. And a striker who's already made a couple of big plays in the game got his left hand up.
May have been tipped by Matt Diamond as well. I think that might have been a double tipped pass. But Stryker, a young man who is likely to put in for an NFL grade, a junior who's had a breakout year. Good speed off the edge.
And those kind of guys are really prized at the next level.
Well, here he showed his
Stryker makes a good tackle there.
Well, you know, without Deshaun Watson at quarterback, there's not much worry about Stout keeping the ball. So Stryker just comes off the edge and closes. Now, if you're Tony Elliott, I would call the zone read to that side and see if Stryker chase again, because Stout is a good enough runner if the guy's going to chase on that side. So see what they do.
3rd and 12, blitz coming. That pass may have been tipped as well, intended for Williams, fell far short of it.
And good job by Mike Stoops on that drive. You get to 3rd and 12. You bring pressure twice to get there. He's tired of sitting around. It's the one thing they have not been able to consistently do all year, is get pressure just with their front. So that time having to start bringing a few extra guys.
Ammon Lacob will come in to try a 52-yarder. Oklahoma has no one back, not necessarily buying this, and good idea by Oklahoma because Lacob tries the pooch punt on the direct snap, puts it out of bounds at the 10.
And we mentioned earlier in the game that Stephon Anthony was out because of targeting. We'll go back to the South Carolina game when this call was made, and we've watched this over and over and over again. And to me, this is not the rule. The rule starts with targeting, which means they take aim for the purpose of doing something beyond the tackle, and that's not what Anthony was doing. I was surprised that the ejection was upheld by the replay. However it was, and so Anthony, a senior, getting his first snaps in the ball game after having to sit out the first half.
Knight gives it off to Ross, and Ross will lose a couple. Ford. Taken down by Grady Jarrett, who has just been immovable.
Yeah, and then Anthony came in just to at least get in on the back half of the tackle to start getting a feel. And Anthony, a guy who we saw this young man a few years ago when they put him in at middle linebacker, Anthony, and he just didn't have the feel for the position. A wonderful athlete, has the size to play linebacker at the next level. But over the years and the tutelage of Brent Venables, this young man has become a very good middle linebacker, has great feel, and I think he's going to be a heck of an NFL guy.
Knight from the end zone. Pirine. Chased down from behind. Beasley, you would think with all the sacks that Beasley had, he would just be full out, but he really played it cool on that and did not give the all-out rush because he smelled screen.
And that's this defense is well coached. They came in really ready to play, and for a guy to jump to the top of the charts at a place like Clemson, really incredible career.
They'll blow this one dead. Sometimes you know how good a guy is by the names on the list where he passes people.
The name Michael Dean Perry still scares me. We played Cleveland when I was in the NFL, and that guy ate my lunch for 4 quarters. I think it was the worst game I ever played. So, good job, Vic. You passed a pretty good player, at least in my book.
Knight under pressure, and Beasley got a hand on that. Almost caught it.
And there again is Beasley just doing his job. He's out working because he's lined up on the tight end, Blake Bell, who, good news for Oklahoma fans, getting some reps. But Beasley, once again, just doing a wonderful job. You can see him on the left side of the screen. He's actually in coverage on Bell. Knows he has help behind, and that was nearly another pick six.
I mean, that was just smart.
Yeah. And you read the grade and you watch that Beasley, his explosiveness off the edge is close to elite.
He's the only consensus All-American who came back for his senior year, and he did it again. Back in 2002, the new co-offensive coordinators were teammates and wide receivers.
Jeff Scott, who still is now coaching the wide receivers, he's down on the field as the co-offensive coordinator, and Tony Elliott, who had a 3.6 GPA as an engineering major at Clemson. Very bright guy with a very bright future. We spoke to him getting ready for this game, very dialed in. Said he was a little nervous to call plays. He is the one marked to call the plays, but wow, what a good night.
Scott shakes a tackle again. He's gotten away from Jordan Thomas more than once. 7 catch for Scott. Came in with 68. Quite a freshman year. Stout pump fake. Steps into one, lays it out there for Williams. Flag is down as Williams is bumped and fouled by Zach Sanchez.
Question is whether that was catchable or not. Sanchez was looked like he was impeding progress a bit.
Defense number 15. 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
It wasn't. Sanchez is bumping him the whole way. I'm not sure you call that. Yeah.
No, you see the jersey pop out.
Yeah. It wasn't overthrown enough to say that jersey hold didn't slow Williams may have been able to make a play on that ball, so that was actually the right call.
So first down, Clemson. Scott on the fly sweep. Gets 9, maybe 10 yards before he's driven out of bounds.
You know, and I have not seen Oklahoma for a couple of years. Last game we had was at Iowa State 2 seasons ago. This defense really struggles in the open field making tackles. That has been everything I studied on film, watching them against Oklahoma State, went back and watched a few of their other games, and here tonight, that time it was Dominique Alexander. He's got Scott right on the sideline. He picks up 7 additional yards.
And against teams and in the way the game is developed offensively, that is a critical skill set that you have to be able to tackle in space.
And when you study them, it looks like they have the athletes. They don't look like they're unathletic. They look like they have the talent. It looks like there is some hesitation in the open field by the second and third level of Oklahoma. As, boy, that'd be a big loss. That's Jordan Phillips, the nose guard who really sets the point against their run game. But this has just not been a good day for Oklahoma on defense.
The 2014 Russell Athletic Bowl is brought to you by the Venture Card from Capital One. Earn unlimited double miles with no blackout dates. And Ford Service. Go with confidence.
Clemson fans at Point Orlando yesterday for a pep rally with the team's band and spirit squads. And they've had an awful lot to cheer about in this one.
And there's a look at Cliff Stout, whose son just split out wide.
And down to about the 2 goes Scott.
And this is a Wildcat package that when Cliff Stout was playing in the NFL, he spent 13 years as a quarterback. There weren't quite the Wildcat packages,
no.
But won the Super Bowl with Pittsburgh. And according to Dabo Swinney, has just been a wonderful parent. Has never called and complained, has always backed the decisions made by the staff and been very supportive of their son. What a nice evening for that family.
Stout with a keeper touchdown. Cole Stout to the delight of his dad.
What do you mean we don't have a quarterback run game with Deshaun Watson out? And you know what? I give the offensive staff here credit because it's easy to say, you know what, he can't quite run it as well as Watson or what we had with Taj Boyd. But if you call it and he's productive when I call it, he had that same one early in the game where he picked up 7 or 8 yards. So you don't quite throw it out. You just don't put it as forward as you would with Deshaun Watson. But a wonderful play.
Well, he's not going to end up with 150 yards rushing, but he's made a couple of good plays with his feet. Nice fake. And Stout in his final game with a running touchdown. And the Stout family with something else to celebrate. Welcome back to the Russell Athletic Bowl. Let's take a look at our Buick Drive recap, Ed.
Well, it was the Cole Stout show. This young man has played incredibly well tonight. He had a few struggles during the season, and they got the pass interference, and then it became the Cole Stout show. Look at the fake. No quarterback run game. We'll tell that to his father, Cliff, 13-year NFL quarterback, awfully excited for his son, finishing out his senior year in classy style, no doubt about it.
Cliff's got some guns on him, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure I'd want to tangle with that ex-quarterback. But what a terrific job by this entire offensive staff. They had a guy who, and we did the Georgia Tech game. When Cole came into that game, he just didn't play well. And the coaches talked about how maybe he wasn't quite prepared, maybe learned about being a backup before that game. But they really lauded his preparation and what they had ready for him in this game. And it sure has paid off.
Ross, one of the top return men in the country, stuffed as he got to the 14-yard line. And there are the numbers on Cole Stout. Had nothing wrong with those numbers. 231 yards, passed for 2 touchdowns, ran for another.
And
no picks.
And think about this guy coming into his senior year. He won the quarterback battle against Chad Kelly in the spring. Then Kelly gets thrown off the team. And then Deshaun Watson, the true freshman, the big-time recruit, comes in. And by the Florida State game, becomes apparent that he's a difference maker, and they're going to go with him. And then all of the injuries to Watson, and Stout has to continue to grind, and a good way to finish.
Oklahoma just have to keep pounding the rock and hope something good happens. Double coverage downfield, no flag.
And I think it's a good no foul here. Both the defensive players are watching the ball. All the contact is incidental. And I know the Oklahoma fans are grabbing for straws for anything, but this is just good coverage. That's Curse and the corner. I got to tell you, Mackenzie Alexander's looking like a future star.
Trevor Knight, they show fly sweep. Knight, little shovel pass underneath to Flowers. Let's go back to that last play. We'll bring in our rules analyst, Bill Lamagna. Bill, what do you think of that last call?
Well, I think Ed hit it right in the head. Both the defense and the offense had good position. Everybody was playing the ball. Everybody had a right to the space. Nobody played through each other. So I think it was a good no call.
It's an interesting way to put it, not playing through a guy, because if you go through them and you change their body position, then you don't have a choice but to call, right?
Exactly. If you've got position, I don't have a right to go through the position you've established.
3rd and long for Trevor Knight. Looks short, throws underneath. And that's going to be shy of a 1st down. There's absolutely nothing has gone well for the Sooners.
98 total yards of offense with 8 minutes and 17 and change left in the 3rd quarter. It's mind-boggling.
And as opposed to what Oklahoma has done on defense, Clemson has rarely missed a tackle.
It's a really good point.
Barnett to kick. Humphreys backpedals inside the 25, taken out of bounds. Loss of 2 on the return after a punt at 52. It was almost 26 years ago that these teams met in the Citrus Bowl. Barry Switzer leading Oklahoma. Tied in the 4th quarter. Terry Allen ran it in for a 7-point Clemson lead. It came down to the last play. Jamel Holloway, his desperation pass into the end zone knocked down, and Danny Ford Tigers beat Switzer's Sooners 13-6. Barry Switzer's last game at Oklahoma.
That was the last bowl game that they did not score a touchdown, and the next few months were not kind to the Oklahoma program. 2 weeks before that bowl, they were hit with very stiff probation, and then chaos reigned for the next couple of months and led to the resignation of Barry Switzer. And I go back to, at the top of the show, we were talking about the heat that Bob Stoops has been under a bit from the noisy internet. Be very careful, Oklahoma fans. Remember your recent past. Things really got off the rails, though, for several years after Barry Switzer left. And this guy in his 16th year has brought such a steadying influence with consistently high play. Today, obviously, notwithstanding, but that happens quite often in bowl games. But you think of how crazy and how far this program fell after that Barry Switzer, the end of the Barry Switzer debacle. We had a transfer come to Washington from Oklahoma, and he said it was chaos, that it had completely come unmoored. And so for a guy who lays between Urban Meyer and Nick Saban for win percentage against other Power 5 teams, I know this year was tough for fans to swallow, and there has been some disappointment in the recent past, but you just really have to look at the whole landscape and the whole picture. You go back to that 1989 season and think of the stability a guy like Stoops gives you. I think this is the man you keep as long as he'll stay.
Stout will keep it this time, takes it up to the 29. So many programs, the expectations are just really sick.
I'll never forget when UCLA was looking for a new coach this last time. A friend of mine who's a big supporter called and said, look, all we want to do is play for a conference championship just about every year and a national championship about every 4 or 5 years.
Oh,
and
sure.
And I said to him, when has that ever happened in your program's history?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and I said, ever? When is that? And he said, well, it hasn't. I said, so how are your expectations at that? How do you expect to get there? And I think Oklahoma has played for the Big 12 championship most years. They have had a chance, especially now with the expansion of 4 teams in the playoff. They very often do have a chance to play for it all. So I think for your Oklahoma, yes, this year was incredibly disappointing. In studying this team, I think they have a long way to go, especially in their secondary. They have to get better in their secondary in the modern game, or they're just not going to be able to keep up with it. But they will. But yeah, the expectations are pretty insane.
After our game, Capital One Bowl Mania continues with Arkansas and Texas in the Advocare V100 Texas Bowl. That's up next on ESPN. Everybody in their respective cities seem to think that they're the only school that deserves to win a national championship. Everybody else does not, so it ought to happen automatically. Last time I looked, it never really worked that way. This pass tipped and nearly picked, and Mackenzie Alexander got a hand on that.
Boy, the competition at quarterback in the spring here at Oklahoma is going to be interesting. Remember, Baker Mayfield transferred from Texas Tech, and Mayfield was a multi-game starter at Texas Tech. So they're going to have 2 quarterbacks in the spring here at Oklahoma. And frankly, the way Knight has played, just inaccuracy, I think he's opened the door to a really big open competition this spring to see who's going to be the signal caller next year.
Of course, he'll have a full offseason to get 100% healthy if he's not right now, and certainly get over whatever physical and psychological scars he might have after suffering a nearly tragic injury. When Clemson doesn't miss anything, Alexander again in on the play defensively. Brett Venables having a good time today, you think?
Not yet. Not yet.
It's rather intense.
Right now, he's doing that thing where you twirl your fingers. I have no idea what that means, but you twirl your fingers. I'm doing this because I'm not doing that. I think usually that means run the same defense. I liked what you had that time. No reason to mess with success.
21 passes for Oklahoma, 38 yards. That's it. This one intended for Neal, off target, out of bounds.
And Bob Stoops, as that ball goes out of bounds, just shakes his head. Trevor Knight has just not been on today. I mean, the poor guy, his last play against Baylor, he was left momentarily paralyzed with 3 games left in the season. But he has thrown so many of these balls out of bounds. And Bob Stoops looking maybe to get some type of push, but that ball is 4 or 5 yards out of bounds, and this is just something that Knight has to work on. I know what your completion percentage is when you throw it out of bounds. It's 0. Yeah, you've got to keep it in. Got to keep it in bounds. But, Mike, I do think it is worth going back to the injury with Trevor Knight against Baylor, because this was a near tragic injury.
Ooh.
And what you have to really be clear about here is that Sean Oakman, the defensive end, watch him lead with the elbow right to the head of a defensive player. Now, there was no targeting called on this. In my opinion, that clearly should have been targeting. Oakman should have been ejected from the game. However, he wasn't. And Trevor, unfortunately, was momentarily paralyzed. He's been cleared, but you had to think coming into this game, it's got to be in the back of your mind. He has had his struggles today, but boy, that's one of those injuries that there had to be a moment where he thought, should I shut my career down and not play anymore?
He was told that he was suffering from transient quadriplegia. And I don't know that you could hear something that would be much more scary than that.
And it's a swelling around the nerves that can cause paralysis like they did. Now, he was up and moving very quickly, and as Janine Edwards reported earlier, they went to specialists all over the country. They studied his MRI, said he was fine and able to play. But boy, that hit by Sean Oakman, not only targeting, but my opinion, that's a dirty play. When you lead with that forearm and a guy is already given himself up, and that's why we have the penalty. It was missed there, and those can be missed, but unfortunately for Knight, I mean, legal, and again, in my opinion, dirty play cost him 3 games, and let's see, maybe it does change his career. He just doesn't look like himself tonight. He may go into spring, and if Baker Mayfield takes over, who knows what can happen for Trevor Knight, but just a bummer of a way to have your regular season end.
Screen on 3rd and 5. Williams high-stepping it down the sideline. Another missed tackle. Oklahoma has to find a way to clean that up because they've just been gashed by fundamental mistakes.
Boy, that's just that's the second time that we've seen Jordan Thomas not give a ton of effort. He just was having a hard time fighting off the block, and Ahmad Thomas struggling to get over there, but it has been a problem.
Clemson not backing away from its offense, continuing to keep the pedal to the metal.
Well, you're in the 3rd quarter. You don't pull off yet. You don't start playing the backups quite yet. Plus, you got a guy, Cole Stout, who's playing out of his mind as a senior. Let him roll up some stats. Sorry, Oklahoma. Not our fault you didn't show up this evening. We're gonna let this young guy have a game that he's gonna remember for the rest of his life.
I'm Cole Stout. You're gonna have to drag me off the field.
Just let me hand it off for the rest of the game. I don't care.
That's right. I am having a ball. I don't want to go anywhere. I think Dad might be beside him.
Dad Cliff played 13 years in the NFL. Steelers, Cardinals.
Tyshawn Dye gets a carry.
And then, of course, Cliff Stout ended his career at the Miami Dolphins. And you know what? This is why bowls like the Russell Athletic Bowl, I think a lot of people with 38 bowls this year say, well, there's too many. I can't argue against that sentiment enough. Let's have more. And the fact that companies like Russell Athletic are willing to get into this game and bat games like this for guys like Cliff Stout, this is who this game is for. So people who push back against bowls, study a game like this and realize how important this is. A couple of reasons. Number one, for a guy like Cliff Stout to really finish off his career in a good way. But for Clemson to get 10 wins for their multiple double-digit wins for 4 years in a row. Think about that as a program builder with their opportunity to do that here.
Tyshawn Dye's career has been sidelined so often by injuries. He was hurt the 3rd day of fall camp in 2013. Came back and then tore an Achilles, and they're going to say the ball came loose. Very hard to see the ball there.
Yeah, we're going to see a review. And that was Charles Walker, freshman defensive end, who was going in to make the see if that ball's coming loose. Well, the ball's certainly coming loose as he's going down. What you can't tell from that angle is whether any part of his body.
Fumble.
Ooh. It's the right knee, and is the ball loose? And because the body Reed Webster, the offensive lineman, is away. Let's bring in Bill Lamagne, our rules analyst. What are you seeing here, Bill?
I'm looking to see on that one shot if the knee possibly was down, but it looked also like the ball was just starting to come out from his forearm. So if that ball was starting to come out, the knee being down will mean nothing. He didn't have control when the knee touched.
We have discovered early on in this replay process that the call on the field has such import, especially if something is too close to make a judgment on it. The call on the field is going to stand.
Yeah, you're going to see that a lot of times. Play stands as called. If the officials had ruled him down, the play would stand as called. You know, as an official, of course, we like to hear confirmed.
That tells you got it right.
But at the same time, this is a play that's made for replay. They get the right camera angle. They get a clear view into there. They'll be able to support the
From
play.
what you've seen, is there indisputable video evidence to overturn fumble? Or
I personally don't think there's indisputable video evidence. I think we're going to see that the ball was just starting to move off his forearm, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to confirm it. but this is going to stand minimally.
Now, a lot of times you can wave off a replay for competitive advantage. At 34-0, could they have waved this off whether it's a fumble or not?
Well, I think from the standpoint that Oklahoma's going to get the ball, don't add insult to injury, give them the ball.
Well, yeah, and it is 34-0. Give them a chance. They do have a full quarter left, so who knows what can happen. I was being a little facetious at 34-0 about competitive advantage.
Oklahoma would really go in the tank now if they didn't get to keep this football.
Well, this would be one of those, considering the way this game has gone, that if you were going to get the short end of the stick, it might happen on this play, but I don't think so. We are told they are looking to see what yard line the ball should be at.
If Clemson's keeping the ball, it could, it's not going to have an impact.
After further review, the ruling is that the runner's knee was down prior to the ball coming out.
As I said, if you're
33-yard line, where it'll be second down.
That comes under the category, if it can go wrong for Oklahoma, it's going to go wrong for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Because the ruling on the field was fumble.
I'm with Bill. I thought that this would stand as called. I'm not sure it'd be confirmed because to me, you cannot see that ball coming out before the knee hits because in both shots that we've seen, Reed Webster, all 6'4", 300 pounds of him, have been in between the camera and the ball. So I think you're right, Mike. This was just not to be Oklahoma's day.
So Stout gets another opportunity, throws underneath, incomplete. Off the hands of Gallman coming out of the backfield. Good coverage by Jordan Evans, one of the inside linebackers.
On the top side, you've got Mike Williams, 7 versus 7. Jordan Thomas over there and Mike Williams. They've tried to throw it over Jordan's head. Let's see if they go for a long throw.
Oklahoma coming on the rush. They go to Williams, and not only does he make the catch, he gets enough yards for a first down. They have gone back to the well time after time after time. He's made 8 catches.
And on 3rd and 9, I have no idea where Jordan Thomas is going. None. I mean, he's getting underneath help, but how in the world is the corner turning and bailing completely on 3rd and 9?
He was 20 yards off the ball.
I know he had Stephen Parker coming underneath the help, but to give up that much yardage.
Offense, number 77, 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
And we've seen it where Oklahoma plays off and off. You see that it looks like they just have, Oklahoma has no confidence in their secondary. The only reason that you would be backing a guy like Jordan Thomas off is because you're worried about the ball being thrown over his head, but you've got to start playing a little more aggressively at some point.
Just pitch and catch for Clemson. There goes Gallman, who's back into the ball game. Spins out of a tackle, gets maybe a half a yard out of the effort.
One of the things when we were talking to Dabo Swinney about the future of this program, and we've been talking a lot about Deshaun Watson, the fine true freshman quarterback who's decided to have ACL surgery after the South Carolina games, not playing today, but he's such a good player and was so well known in the South that a lot of the recruiting is guys saying we want to come play with Deshaun Watson. We know we've got a few years to come play with a really good player. And see guys like Coleman and like Davis Scott.
It's coming. Touchdown. And Cole Stout was crushed by Dominique Alexander. Just crushed, but he hung in there, made the throw, and Hopper made the catch for a touchdown. Take a look at this replay. Boy, hit. Great job by Stout. That takes some guts to hang in there for that.
And I would hope because of that hit, I really would hope that the medical staff would go over to Cole. This is one thing we have to do in this game is watch when, even though he got up, even though he seems okay, I would really want the medical staff.
Face mask, number 19 of the defense. Play resulted in a touchdown. That penalty will be enforced on the kickoff.
Nice quick striker.
And I don't think Stryker's doing anything dirty there. He's just going in to watch the play. But the way Stout's head hit the ground, I really hope that someone from the medical staff goes over. Just make sure that there wasn't a mild concussion. He seems to be okay. Like I said, I don't think that was a dirty play by Stryker. I think his hand just got caught in the face mask as he went over it.
Janine has more.
Yeah, right now, I'm looking at Cole Stout right now, and he just picked something out of his eye. So he did get something in his eye, but that's trainer Randy Poole, who's right there, Danny Poole, talking to him. And here we go. You're going to see, guys, he's going to look in his eye. He may talk to him. He may or may not go through a concussion protocol, but it looks like right now the main thing they're worried about is what went into his left eye.
Well, it looks like they're working maybe his contact. Yeah, he's pulling his contact out. If you play with contacts, you're on camera, Cole.
Tell you what, they're not going to be able to get the smile off his face for a long time. 305 yards, and this is a great throw.
And look at the weight transfer. You know, boy, that's a vicious pull. It's no wonder didn't pull his eyeball out, not just the contact lens.
He knows Alexander is going to get it.
But we've talked about, you know, we've seen quarterbacks that they'll fall back from that throw. There's no way that throw gets there if he doesn't get a little bit away from it.
He looks no worse for wear. Another scenic area here in Orlando, the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center. Right here in downtown, beautiful theater. Orlando has come a long, long way since Walt Disney saw a forest in the middle of scrubland.
And that's not the only new building. The Florida Citrus Bowl completely revamped, the entire lower bowl rebuilt. I hadn't been here since 2004, and this is a really terrific venue. They'll host 2 games here, the Russell Athletic Bowl and, of course, the Citrus Bowl on the first.
You mentioned earlier, Ed, a low moment in Clemson Bowl history when they had 70 laid on them by West Virginia. And, of course, they didn't want to go back and look at that game at all. They're going to want to rerun this baby over and over and over, and Oklahoma's going to be the one. If they give them a DVD, they just throw it in the nearest wastebasket on the way out the door to go home. There's nothing you can learn from this game.
Yeah, when you start spinning it forward to 2015, and you know, we were talking about tackling in space for the secondary. Sometimes that's who are the athletes you have back there. Are they athletic enough to do it? But when I was watching the secondary, they just seem to not have a great feel of when to slow down, when to break down, when to go make the tackle. They seem to overrun a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of ways to solve that, but those things are not easy to fix. If your players are doing that, it's stuff you work on. So clearly not coming through for Oklahoma in the secondary.
Should this margin hold, it would be the worst Oklahoma bowl loss ever. The one before was 36 points in the Orange Bowl to USC when they were whacked 55-19. It's also Bob Stoops' worst loss of his exceptional career.
And what a nice evening. We talked about Cole Stout, but what a nice evening for Brent Venables, who was the defensive coordinator for Bob Stoops for a number of years. Got an opportunity, got called out of the blue.
Brent's trying to fly now. And no flag. That looked like the helmet may have been grabbed.
As Kearse got over, it looked like he just got the shoulder pad. But Brent Venables told a great story about Gary Peters, senior cornerback, 3 years ago when he took over and started talking about the goal being to be the #1 defense in the country. And Gary Peters said, really?
That's a great story.
Really? You think we could be #1? Well, guess what they're going to finish this season as?
Fumble recovered by Clemson. You didn't think it could get worse? Yes, it can. Josh Wilson appeared to be the guy who knocked it loose from Keith Ford. And some of the Oklahoma fans, not even the end of the third quarter, they have seen plenty. It took them so long.
Ford, who has, unlike Samaje Perine, has had some fumble issues, and I don't know that there is enough Pepto-Bismol in the state of Florida to help the Stoops brothers tonight.
No. Curse got the recovery, and it's Clemson football with 13 seconds to go in the third quarter. Stout, Williams, off his hands.
And I know people are saying, wait, it's 40-0. What are you doing? Again, this is the third quarter. This is a competitive sport. Cole Stout is a senior who has paid his dues for this moment. I do not mind this call at all by Clemson. I know it can probably feel a little bit like piling on, but I don't feel like this is what this is. I think this is a staff giving a senior quarterback his last run. He may come out after this series. He likely will, and give way to Nick Schuessler.
What a throw by Stout, by the way. I mean, that was right there. The third quarter will come to an end, and Clemson is pummeling the Oklahoma Sooners. Brent Venables a little intense. We got a quarter left. Welcome back to the 2014 Russell Athletic Bowl, and you can't be in Orlando without thinking about Walt Disney World fireworks over the Magic Kingdom. Don't know how they fly, but they're good.
It's magic. It's fairy dust.
There you go. I thought it was smoke from the fireworks.
I mean, Clemson, Oklahoma got a little bit of the fairy dust.
Fairy dust wouldn't help.
They're down and 9 for the Tigers at the 45.
Clemson in Oklahoma territory again. 3rd and 9. Stout goes out into the flat. That will be close to a first down to DJ Howard.
And that might be the last time you see Cole Stout for Clemson. What a wonderful way to finish off his career. Had an up and down year. He was a guy who injured his non-throwing shoulder. Had an amazing game against Louisville where he didn't even practice the whole week. Deshaun Watson got hurt. He went in, played well enough for them to win against a very good defense. And
number one in the country.
Number one. And it's just got to be nice for the Stout family. That's his father, Cliff, on the left, who's NFL quarterback. And then Brandon Streeter, former Clemson quarterback, now back as a quarterback coach. It just has to be such a nice feeling for the Stout family to finish it off like this.
Dabo Swinney said something that I thought was so cool. He said, Cole Stout is such a classy kid. He deserves to be treated in a classy way. And because of the internet and the fact that you can hide behind it and all that kind of stuff, people just abused him when, as you so correctly pointed out, he was taking pain injections to play with that bad shoulder. People don't even think about that. They expect you to come out and be at your best no matter what.
Against Louisville, he had 0 practice snaps. His left shoulder hurt so bad he couldn't practice that week. They had no idea he'd be available. They thought of him as an emergency guy. He came in, made enough plays for them to win. And this is a team, you think of the last 2 years, the offensive players that they have lost.
Look at that punt by Pinion. The thing is a mile high and killed it inside the 5. Everything is going the right way. Cliff on the left, Cole on the right. Both a couple of pretty happy guys. Welcome back to the 2014 Russell Athletic Bowl. Time now for the latest dish, brought to you by Dish Network. A couple of ball games that you'll be able to catch on the ESPN networks, and beauties they are. 2 against 3, then 1 against 4 for the right to play for the national championship.
The addition of the playoff to college football, I think the fear sometimes was you're going to hurt the regular season. I found it just invigorating at the end. How many games mattered, what you had to think through scenario-wise. I thought it was awesome.
Knight being chased in the end zone, throws underneath, will gain just about nothing to Bell, and Stephon Anthony, the middle linebacker, was on the tackle, gain of maybe a half yard.
start to wonder if Trevor Knight should maybe be out of the game at this point. Obviously, the game completely out of hand. Here's a guy who had a neck injury against Baylor, left him momentarily paralyzed. And I know, look, he's got to get his reps like everybody else, but at some point you got to think you'll see Cody Thomas, his backup in.
Pirine, who has certainly been a non-factor in this game, and that's, you have to give it to the Clemson defense for taking this kid who was a stud and a half.
131 yards per game averaging, coming in now at 62 yards on the day. The total yards for Oklahoma on offense, 133. This is, and some of it, a lot of it has been self-inflicted. They have not played great. Trevor Knight has not been very accurate, but Brent Venables' group has played well up front, especially early on. They just completely handled Oklahoma.
Young was the man in motion. 3rd and long, 4-man pressure. Quick will make the catch, and he's got a first down up near the 19-yard line. Nakia Quick with his 6th grab of the game.
And that's a Clemson defender. It looked like Mackenzie Alexander, the corner, was slow to get up. And that happens a lot where it's friendly fire that can hurt you. As Jaron Kearse came over, it was Alexander who took the brunt of the hit. The get-back coach getting Venables off the white before the snap. Well done.
How would you like that job? Overthrown. Intended for Young.
And we just, Steve Turnberger, our director, just said that coach is always on his hip, making sure you've got to get the white clear. You got to get out of the white because that's where the officials work. And so that assistant staff member behind him, they got the biggest guy on the staff.
Yeah, I was going to say they pick a big guy.
Well, Venables is a very, you meet him, he was a all big 8 linebacker at Kansas State, but this guy all night he's the get back guy for Brent Venables. Get out of the white, coach. Get out of the white.
Pirine. Space up the middle, and Pirine rumbles out to the 30.
You know, one of the things, and you can see right in position. Right in position. Come on. Get back. Get back. There is no way in the world that guy who's pulling him back hasn't been coached or figure out his Brent Venables technique. You could see he had the wide base. He was ready to go to the hips and pull him back. Look at the positioning. This is terrific. There's no doubt that they've worked through this. Get him out of the white or we'll get a penalty.
Pirine again, and Anthony came up and filled the hole beautifully. Well, Venables is certainly fun to watch. He's practicing his off-season golf swing. We'll do that.
Good finish on the swing. There's the finger twirl. Then the Johnny Manziel money. Now he's doing the Egyptian. And that's all. We got to find out who this guy is. Let's get Janine on who the pullback guy is. His technique is terrific. He knows to go to the midpoint of the person you're pulling back, so it's their center of gravity you're pulling back. Well coached. But give Brent Venables credit to know he needs a guy doing that. You say, hey, look, I need someone behind me to make sure I don't get us a penalty every now and then.
He's telling everybody else, get out of the way, I need room to work. See, back up.
And it is, you know, we're having a lot of fun with it, but being out of that wide area is really important for officials because they can get hurt. That's where they're running. They're not looking downfield. So good job by Clemson of being on top of that.
Knight lost this one, and at the last moment, Peters reached out with a right hand and knocked it away. And the reason coaches want to be in that white area is so they stand out from everybody else so their kids can see them.
Especially in today's game, when the offense changes the play at the line of scrimmage, you have to be able to tell your defense the finger spinning, which is just run the same defense, or calling a new defense. So that's why he's out there. But
and there's resistance every time, isn't there?
Leave me alone. Oh, yeah, I got it back there.
Pirine again, whistle stop play. A flag is down at the 45-yard line. Now, you know, with all the pride Clemson has in that defense, that they want to maintain.
Number 16 to the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remain second down.
They want to maintain that shutout, and we'll check in with Adnan Virk.
Thank you very much, Mike. Sports Right Now brought to you by Great Clips. And Michigan has told its biggest boosters that a deal for Jim Harbaugh to become its next head coach is done, and a news conference is scheduled for Tuesday. 6 years, $48 million. Big Ten got a whole lot more exciting. Mike, back to you.
Congratulations, Adnan. Thank you. Congratulations to Jim Harbaugh. He has done a brilliant job wherever he has gone. P. Ryan again to the sideline, knocked out by Beasley.
And Venables was pulled back by the get-back coach again to get out of the way. But what a hire by Jim Harbaugh. You know, we saw Michigan twice this year. There's some talent there. Defensively, they have some talent, but that guy can coach.
Oh.
I know he can grind a little bit and be hard to work with sometimes, and I think that might have had something to do with what happened with the 49ers, but man, can he coach. Just
off of Quick's outstretched hand. Those three Clemson defenders were back. Let's go to Janine. Janine, you have more on the get-back coach.
Well, inquiring minds needed to know, and so I found out it is Adam Smotherling. He is one of the strength coaches, and how appropriate, because he gets quite a workout every week, yanking Venables back off the field.
It usually is the strength department that is given in charge of the get back because they're kind of the biggest, strongest guys. But this guy, he should have his weight belt on. As low as he's had to get, as much as he's had to pull back. Needs to get a little water now. He's getting a workout.
That's great. We'll check on Quick when we come back, too. Bryce Petty leads number 5 Baylor against Connor Cook and number 8 Michigan State in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, New Year's Day, 12:30 Eastern on ESPN. It's part of the New Year's 6.
I like Michigan State a lot in that ball game. That defensive front, and Bryce Petty, who's been banged around a lot this year. We saw that defensive front.
And congratulations to Pat Narduzzi, by the way, who's going to take over at Pitt. Well-earned a shot at being a head coach. Let's bring in Bill Lamagnier, our rules expert. And Bill, you've been in this situation many times. What do you do before a game? You talk to one of these guys and tell them what the deal is?
Yeah, we have our sideline officials before the game, that hour before we're out on the field, and they go to each coach. They want to know who the strength coach or the get-back coach is. We talk to them, and we put the burden on that coach to say, hey, if coach gets one today, it's your fault. So make sure you keep these players back. Make sure you keep this coach back, or it's on you.
So you use guilt to get the strength and conditioning staff to keep your white area clean.
It's psychology, you know. It's game management and people skills.
That's awesome. And it really is important. This is a huge safety issue, especially for officials that are in the back end and have to go chase a ball.
Because they're not looking for traffic. They are watching the field, and it can be terribly dangerous for an official if somebody's in the way.
That's why I like working in the middle as a referee. Everybody was normally going away from me.
But that's Adam Smotherman, who is an assistant strength coach at Clemson, who has been the get-back personal assistant to Brett Venables tonight. But that's really good input, Bill, that as officials you actually know to go talk to the strength staff, which is usually in charge of keeping the white area clean. It's good to know you use some guilt on them to get the job done.
And I'm sure there is some anger and irritation involved with that too, because the coach doesn't want to leave that spot, and sometimes you almost have to pick him up and move him out of the way.
Yeah, Smotherman looks like the guy who could do that just fine.
He could pick up Venables and somebody else at the same time and move them out of the way. Let's check in with Janine. She's got more.
Well, you know what, guys, you were talking earlier about Cole Stout and just the job he's done this season and dealing with that shoulder injury, which, by the way, he got a shot in that shoulder before this game as well, as he has all season. And Dabo Swinney had told us, you know, he needs to hit the reset button for this game. They knew he was dealing with some confidence issues. And Brandon Streeter, the new quarterback's coach, told me before the game, he said, I was reminding him of all his strengths and all the things that he's done well this year. I reminded him of that because I wanted him to play with poise today, which he has. And then Cole Stout said, it'll be good for me to have one voice, to have a fresh voice in my ear on the sideline that's just dealing with me, which new quarterback coach Brandon Streeter is doing. Keep in mind, the old quarterbacks coach was also the offensive coordinator, Chad Morris, who had a lot to juggle down here on the sidelines.
And Janine, many teams, including in the NFL, at least they used to, did not necessarily have a quarterback coach. The ones that didn't, we would talk to those quarterbacks, and they say it is a lonely feeling when you screw up on the field and come off and there's not one guy, your guy on the sideline, at least to say, hey, look, you didn't make a horrible mistake, or you did, and you need to correct this.
And with Chad Morris, he was the quarterback coach, but because he was spread so thin as an offensive coordinator, he may be with the offensive line, he may be with the receiver, and I think Brandon Streeter coming in will be a boon to this program.
And no knock on Chad Morris, that was just the deal.
Yep.
At this nonprofit resort.
And Mike, I saw you were breakdancing right after that young guy. You really...
Is that what it was?
Yeah, when you spun on your head, I was really impressed.
I thought I was having a seizure. Janine, what do you have?
Well, you know what, guys? You can tell a lot about a person by how they spend their money. With the $450 shopping spree that the Russell Athletic Bowl gave these players, the most popular items purchased were an Xbox 4, PlayStation, Beats headphones. But there were a few players who were a little more domestic, shall we say. A couple of Oklahoma players got a Dyson fan. One guy got a Sonicare toothbrush. And Clemson's long snapper, Michael Sobeski, I think he takes the prize. He got a vacuum cleaner. He is engaged to be married. I hope that wasn't a present for his wife.
No, son, I got a flash for you. That's the last thing they want is a vacuum cleaner.
You know what his fiance said? That present sucks.
Oh, jeez.
Hey,
He's
it's
heading in
40-0 in the fourth quarter.
We'll try to stay upbeat back here in the studio, Mike. A great triple header of college football action continues. Charlie Strong in Texas facing Arkansas as former conference rivals converge. That's coming up just about 27 minutes from now right here on ESPN. Mike?
Thanks, Adnan. And Ed will be here all week. Literally, he really will.
Exactly. We're doing the Citrus Bowl.
Clemson did a really neat thing. They called timeout to get all the seniors off the field and sub so that their fans could give them a standing ovation for an absolutely magnificent performance. And now Oklahoma is hoping not to be shut out. And they go to work, and they're the seniors.
Boy, that was neat.
They lost so many. They are going to lose so many guys off this team. Brett Venables is going to have an unbelievable job ahead of him. 9 of the 11 starters are gone. And the last time I counted, it was 13 out of the top 15 on defense will be leaving this Clemson sideline. That's one of the reasons they're the #1 defense in the country. Knight still trying to make something happen. Underneath, throws intended for Bell. It's incomplete.
And you've got to believe that those seniors are over there. There's Vic Beasley, who's going to be playing for a big paycheck next year. And school history was set today with their 42nd career win. But surprised they're not over on the sideline urging on the younger guys to keep the goose egg on the scoreboard for Oklahoma. Think of the sweetness for Brent Venables, the defensive coordinator, formerly of Oklahoma. He's able to pitch a shutout against his former employer.
Pirine works off the left side, runs through one tackle. Pirine inside the 20. Pushed out of bounds near the 10. Good effort there by Shaq Wilson to stay alive and push him out of bounds.
And at 40-0, you know, you start thinking, wait, Pirine, who set an NCAA record for 427 rushing yards in one game. I know you don't want to get shut out here, but you just start to wonder, do you really want your top line players in there if you're Oklahoma? One of those freak injuries right before going in the offseason. I get it, you don't want to get shut out. But
yeah, and I think you want to give him a positive feeling coming out of this game, too. They'll take it off the right side, and they made it look easy with Ross. Alex Ross against that Clemson second unit. There goes the shutout. And Oklahoma at least has something on the board. Statistically, at least, this will not be the worst loss in the Oklahoma career of Bob Stoops, but practically, they're not going to look back on this game with any affection at all. And that is tipped and no good. And all Bob can do is shake his head. Nothing he hasn't seen bad in this one. The college football playoff kicks off on New Year's Day. Back-to-back semifinal games. Number 2 Oregon battles number 3 Florida State at 5 Eastern in the Rose Bowl game presented by Northwestern Mutual. Then at 8:30, number 1 Alabama takes on number 4 Ohio State in the All-State Sugar Bowl. And it's all on ESPN.
Bad news for Oregon. Florida State looks like they're getting 2, maybe 3 very key defenders back. Lawrence Niles Stample may be able to go, who might be the best interior for Florida State from a pec injury, but
missed him all year long.
Yeah, getting those guys back and healthy may be a change. You know, we already saw the seniors go off, and maybe this will be Cole Stout's chance.
And now Cole Stout declared today's Capital One Player of the Game, and he earned it. 25 of 35, over 300 yards. 3 touchdowns, no picks, and he ran for another score. So a much maligned backup his entire career. He is going to be 6-2 as a starter this year, and his dad is getting every picture that camera will hold.
His father, Cliff, 13-year NFL quarterback.
Williams.
Man, they are not taking their foot off the gas. And he wouldn't be surprised if Stout gets pulled out at some point. A little surprised that he wasn't pulled out after that first play. Nick Schuessler, a sophomore who we saw play. Well, you know what? His dad's getting ready for the picture of where his son comes off the field.
Yeah.
He's got it loaded and ready. That's a
He's anticipating the same thing we are.
That's a neat scene.
Clock running, 6:14 and counting. Clemson taking every second off the clock that it can. And now here's the timeout. They did this for the defensive players. Now they're doing it for the offensive players.
Yeah, so it's all the seniors, not just Stout. What a nice move.
Yeah,
this is
sure
really
is.
classy.
It's a beautiful way to do it.
Winningest class in the history of this program. That's a mouthful.
And you forget, for guys who are backups, they work so hard for so long, not only during the season but in the off season, every other way trying to contribute to the team. And to get this ovation, it's got to mean all the world to it.
What a nice moment for all these young men. And you know, you talked about Cliff Stout, the abuse he had taken when he had some struggles. Yet here's a team that, you know, they coming into this year, no one expected them to beat Georgia. They knew they were going to have some struggles. They started out, they really took Florida State all the way to the mat. They had the ball on the 18-yard line. Only needed a field goal to win at Florida State. They unfortunately fumbled the ball back to Florida State. Then they win 8 of their last 9. The Georgia Tech game, Deshaun Watson goes down with just the most bizarre injury you've probably ever seen. Stout wasn't quite ready to play, so they give that one up to a very good Georgia Tech team. But to get 10 wins or more 4 straight years. And there's a look at Deshaun Watson, who got an early start, got a surgery. They will not have him back for spring ball, they don't think, but will be ready for what they call skills and drills during the summer, which is when you get a lot of work done.
C.J. Davidson, the running back, behind Nick Schuessler. Deshaun Watson, what a talented kid he is.
He came into that Florida State game, and you could see that it was just a little different. Excellent thrower, has great command, very good study, a wonderful runner, has a great feel for it.
Question is always going to be, in this kind of offense, can the quarterback stay healthy? The verdict after 1 year is no.
Yeah, and that's, you know, we saw that. We saw a bunch of Taj Boyd when he was here.
Exactly.
And he would take a beating in some games. And it is a question that everyone in the sport is dealing with, especially at the NFL level, because now you see the zone run and quarterbacks starting to run more at the NFL level.
Quarterback, 5-yard penalty, minus third down.
You've been around both games a long time. I played in the NFL. It is a different level of guy that you're getting hit. I don't think you can have a quarterback run game in the NFL. I think you can at this level, but I do think you open it up. Deshaun Watson missed a lot of games this year, broken hand. But these are things that can happen whether you're running or not. So I do think it is a question that's throughout the game. But here's the thing that it does is it makes the defense not just add one extra guy. They now have to add two to the box to try to defend it. So I don't think it's going anywhere.
Well, I have said from day one, people who think an NFL offense, if you can run a legitimate triple option, they're living in a fool's paradise, because you're going to need a half a dozen quarterbacks if you're really going to do it. And this is recovered by Rodriguez. Good hustle on his part for the former veteran.
Ball slips out of the.
Oh, Schuessler just lost it.
Just lost it.
Rodriguez right on the spot.
And that was Rodriguez. They were trying to get him a catch on a screen. We'd mentioned Rodriguez, a former. Was a retired military man, and they were trying to get him a catch, and the ball slipped out on Schuessler, so he got a fumble recovery.
His answer was, if you can't throw it to me, I'll come and get it. Let's check in with Adnan.
All right, Mike, just a friendly reminder, coming up next, more great college football action as Texas quarterback Tyrone Swoops trying to give Charlie Strong a victory against Arkansas. Kickoff just about 15 minutes from now, right here on ESPN. Mike, back to you.
Adnan, thanks very much. .351 left. And Oklahoma will go back to working on offense with a chance to put 7 more on the board as Knight straight down the middle into double coverage, and it's picked. Nice play by T.J. Green. He had the underneath coverage, and they had him bracketed. The 5th Oklahoma turnover.
And what good reps for these young guys. That's Cordrea Tankers, the cornerback. Did a nice job. He's got outside leverage, stays right on the hip. And then his sophomore teammate, T.J. Green, comes underneath. And you were talking about all the guys that Brent Venables was going to lose. Well, these young guys getting some reps, getting ready for spring ball and into next fall.
So Clemson back on offense, perhaps another opportunity to get the ball to Daniel Rodriguez, who has 1 pass reception this year. Awarded the Purple Heart and the Silver Star for his service in Afghanistan. Having the spot where they can throw a flanker screen, and it was just an awful throw. Rodriguez was all set. And the pass was by David Olson, who was checked in a quarterback. And he threw the ball closer to the man in the front of the screen than he did to Rodriguez.
Bring back in Bill Lamagna, our rules analyst. And Bill, you spent a lot of times on the field officiating. This crew from the SEC, how do you think they've done today?
Nice job tonight. They kept the game in control, good calls. The replay team has done an excellent job. And, you know, we were talking earlier, the SEC official, Steve Shaw, has done a fantastic job as the coordinator of officials there. He's got an outstanding staff. And for the last 7 years, they've been shut out of working the national championship because the football's so good in the SEC. They're always in the national championship.
And so the way it works is the officials actually, it's a system where you earn the right, obviously.
The officials assigned to all the bowl games. It's based on your ratings during the season. And obviously then the people that are selected for the major games, like our championship series that's coming up, they're the top of their group from each conference. And it has to be a neutral assigned group to work each game. So the SEC shut out. And they've already predetermined, and I believe it's going to be the Big 12 that's working the championship game. They don't have a horse in the race. So you're going to see the SEC work one of the games. I think they're out at the Rose Bowl. And then you're going to have the crew from the Pac-12 is working at the Sugar Bowl.
And I don't think a lot of people know that. And when I studied being an official, it's a really competitive field. And guys want to be rewarded with the bigger plays as we're about to get to Gatorade, Dabo Swinney. So it's kind of a bummer for those guys from the SEC. Their football's so good they don't get to call a national championship game.
They take pride, I guess, in you get the SEC championship game, that becomes your national championship.
Bill, do you know if it had been 2 SEC teams in the championship, would they have been able to work that?
You know, a couple of years ago when there was the possibility that that was going to happen, they talked about that, and then they decided not to do that. They stayed away from that. So a tough break for them, but at the same time, I know how proud they are to work this conference. And as I said, this crew, the other crews in the SEC, Steve Shaw, it's just a phenomenal job they've done.
I want to give real credit to the players who picked the orange Gatorade to dump on their coach, so it matched his
they were out of
his
purple.
colors. You know, a big monkey off the back for Clemson was that win against South Carolina. They hadn't won in 6 tries. And, of course, Steve Spurrier took every chance he could to needle the Clemson program.
Which only he can do like Steve Spurrier does.
But that game against South Carolina was a dominant effort. Today's effort, a dominant effort with all of the people coming back, including Deshaun Watson on offense. Pretty bright things. They've got a lot of people to replace on defense, no doubt, but this will be a pretty good squad next year as well.
If you would like to see the post-game trophy ceremony presented by Capital One immediately following the game, just tune into ESPN 3 and we'll have it for you. Dabo will be toweling off for the next half hour.
What a nice evening for Cole Stout.
P-Line racking up yards at the end of the ball game, but when the game was on the line, that Clemson defense, as terrific as it was, hung in there, made sure he was a non-factor.
And there's Bob Stoops and his brother Mike. You know, as they go into this offseason, and these are two guys who have coached a ton of defense, have coached a ton of secondary. They've got their work to do. They've got to go back and start looking at, okay, what can we maybe do different structurally? What are the things we need to start doing a little better? Because it is clear that on the back end of this Oklahoma defense, there's just trouble tackling in space. They're just having trouble with it. From what I studied coming into the game and watching tonight, they're going to have to really get that. The very first play of the game tonight was a screen pass to Artavis Scott, where 2 Oklahoma defenders were there and completely overran it, and Scott goes 65 yards for a touchdown. They're just going to have to do some digging in and some studying, and they're going to have to improve the secondary if they want to get back into that elite talk for a playoff spot next season and the year after.
And it wasn't like Scott, as good as he was, broke a couple of tackles, and they just missed it. I mean, 2 guys whiffed when a third had leverage on the outside and did his job. Bob Stoops, I'm sure, still in a state of shock and will be for a while. Clemson really handed it to him. Huge win for Dabo Swinney. 10th victory of the year. He's done it 4 times in his career at Clemson. Bob Stoops been to bowl game 16 times in 16 years. Here's Janine Edwards.
All right. That was almost a redux of Chick-fil-A bowl. Coach, congratulations. Gosh, 4 straight years, you guys have had 10 wins or more. What do you say about the job that your team has done?
Well, first of all, just, I'm thankful that the good Lord has given me the opportunity to be at Clemson and to be surrounded by such great men and to have a group of players that buy in. I mean, when I got this job 6 years ago, the goal was to, if we're going to be the best, we got to beat the best. And we wanted to become a consistent program. And, 4 out of 6 years, 10-plus wins, 4 years in a row. This senior group, 42 wins in 4 years, winningest group ever to come through here. And they came here just with a belief in our vision. And to see them finish it out and, 3 consecutive bowl wins, against great programs like LSU and Ohio State and now Oklahoma, I just couldn't be more proud. I'm humbled and I'm blessed because the credit goes to the players. Us coaches, we just screw it up. But these players, they make us all look good. And I'm so proud of them. A guy like Cole Stout, what a fighter, man. A guy that just, kept going back to work and kept his class the whole way, kept his faith, and he had a stage like this tonight to really play his best game probably of his career.
Sure did. Well said, Coach, and congratulations.
Go Tigers.
Janine, thanks very much. A lot of the people that you could be happy for in this situation, but you've got to be happy for Cole Stout.
I think this is why we have